anymore. I could have thrown out dial, but there's no dials anymore. You can press seek, but there's no or scan. There's no dials. Anyhow, we appreciate you listening on the radio, and we appreciate you watching on Warchant TV, YouTube. Always appreciative of that as well. Hello, chat. Everybody in there doing all right? Everybody feeling pretty good? All right, good. With that, we can proceed. I don't know where to start. What a busy sports weekend. It was awesome. I loved it. Now, I'm watching everything. That's where I stand on it being a big sports weekend. You know, the FSU had plenty of going on if you want to make it about FSU, and that is a central theme on the show. But it's a talk show. It's a sports talk show. We talk about all the sports. And so when you incorporate all of that, there was a ton this weekend to get to. It was glorious.
Almost too much.
Almost too much.
Like I saw, for example, Lakers-Wolves was awesome yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I saw that it was awesome.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched Pistons-Knicks before that.
Yeah. See, that made the cutting room floor for baseball.
I had 2 TVs going.
Yeah.
I was good to go. I actually had 2 TVs and the iPad. That's how busy this was. I was like, man, they got this. We got this. So, where to start? I guess I'll start with Florida State, and then we'll branch out, of course. We'll branch out to the draft. Everybody's got an opinion about the draft. I'll give you my thoughts on all of that, plus the fiasco with Shedeur and all that. And then we'll circle back here. There is a college element, if I could speak, and there's an aspect of post-draft coverage that does come back to Florida State, does come back to our situation, our predicament, and the landscape of college football. And that's another prism by which to view the NFL draft is what kind of a snapshot are you getting, and how does it affect your football team, in that case, your being ours, beloved Noles, you know, and what does it say, good or bad, or somewhere in between, about the situation Florida State finds themselves in? Really, frankly, any team in the ACC, and the bigger picture of college football and who runs and rules the day. Further evidence of the answer that we already have known to come and loathe, which is the hard part. But let's start with Florida State baseball, which remains incredibly frustrating and inconsistent, to say the least. It's a team that I think obviously we all see capable in a one-off of beating any team in the country, and wouldn't surprise you in the slightest. Could win a series against any team in the country, wouldn't surprise you in the slightest. Could lose to middling teams around the country as well in a series, wouldn't surprise you at all. They have warts. They also have great strengths, and depending on which is on display that particular weekend, you get the result so desired or worried about. So that's where this is. You know, I thought the Friday version of Arnold was exceptional. It was the guy that we anticipated all season long. It was the hope for him as he entered the year. It was the kind of thing that made him a prospect to go number 1 overall in the draft. That version of Jamie Arnold, which I would argue was the first time this season we've seen it, where he had command of all of his secondary pitches.
Upper 90s velo.
Mm-hmm. Everything about that Jamie Arnold plays as an elite draft prospect, obviously, and as potentially the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, that's great for him, and we're rooting for him. But really, as it pertains to the Noles, that version of Jamie Arnold puts you in a hell of a good position in any postseason that you're going to play in, the ACC, obviously, or obviously the regionals, and any sort of a opportunity where a big game is needed from the horse of the staff and the most talented member of the staff. You saw it. It's there. It's in him. We saw it some last year. This is the first time. Now, we've seen it in spurts this year, but this is what an ace does. This is what an ace does on the road. This is what an ace does when you have to have it, right? And he was fantastic. And it's easy for that to get lost because you get your head kicked in the next 2 games. And I don't want to overlook just how good Jamie Arnold was because he really was. And Florida State ends up hitting 5 home runs in that game, one of them being an inside the park home run. But, the Noles did everything right that day. You said, all right, good, we're good. Good relief pitching in that game, everything that you would want to see. And then it all fell apart. I thought Link was incredibly succinct after yesterday's run ruling ass kicking. And Louisville captures the series with a, 14-2? You get the added cruelty of a grand slam to run rule. Link was blunt. He thought that Louisville was really, really good, was physical, as he put it, and that's what he likes to label teams that can really slug. Mendez found that out in the first when you're out here throwing BP, middle, ain't exactly overwhelming stuff that you're trying to miss those bats with. Little middle for that ass goes 400 and something feet repeatedly. Dude's just standing there waiting for that sucker to land. First one, okay. Line drive, cut through the wind. Guy got on top of it. Give him credit, just kept going. Next two were prodigious. Next two were just prodigious. You'd like, I think, based on the weekend's action against Louisville, which saw Florida State's bullpen 4 2/3, striking out 1, walking 8, allowing 12 hits and 14 earned runs. That'll hurt your feelings. I think that if you could say straight up, I'll trade you Louisville's bullpen for our bullpen, and we'll take Louisville's bullpen. I'm in. I'm in on that trade.
I think you'd say that for a lot of teams. Bullpen for bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because that'll hurt your feelings. 9 1/3, struck out 4, walked 1 batter, gave up just 5 hits and 0 runs. Did Louisville's bullpen over the weekend. That was a whole lot of on the table there, and that's a toughie.
You're on video.
That's a toughie. And, man, good thing Alex Odis keeps hitting, though. Man, a lot does he just over and over and over again. They'll be fine. I'm not freaking out. What you're going to get is a great series this weekend. 2 desperate teams. For those that don't know, Clemson got swept over the weekend by NC State. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. That's a really quality Clemson ball club. And for them to get swept, they'll be mad as hornets coming in here. We're obviously not happy with what just happened. And you have a meaningful, big-time, big atmosphere series coming up this weekend against Clemson. That's the best of Dick Hauser. That's my favorite. Sold out games, rivals, because Clemson's a baseball rival. And you know what happened last year with the madness at their ballpark and the Mickey Mouse childlike antics that they do with their stadium ops. And now you get a chance to exact some revenge against a team that, obviously will be locked in. You get the best, I think, of both. I think you'll see high-quality baseball this week, and hopefully it's one that Florida State wins the series, obviously. But it's a big series for both teams. It's a really big series, and for those of us that are lucky enough to live here in this great city of Tallahassee, Florida, we'll be at those games because this is where it's at this weekend. It's going to be huge.
It will be. I'm glad that Florida State does not have a midweek this week for finals. I think you need a little break, even though you just got one the weekend prior. You line up your pitching, and this is going to give you a good indication of where they believe these kids need to be slotted in terms of importance coming out of the bullpen. Link said last week in his Thursday press conference that with John Abraham, they really could do a lot of different things with him. They're not entirely sure what they want to do. I would be surprised if he wasn't maybe paired up on Saturday with Vellini, and then you just try and find somebody who can finish the game for Arnold. Because I think you want to get length out of Abraham. I know he struggled yesterday, but it was the third time he was used in a week. He was nails on Friday. He was fine. And he was obviously fine in the midweek as well. I think that's one of the arms you're going to have to get a little bit more out of. Like, whatever your use is of him, it has to be high leverage. And I think right now, because of the way it's trending, you feel good about the way Jamie's going. Joey gave you 5+ on Saturday. I think you need to pair those two together. But we're going to find out because there is no midweek to throw things out of whack. So you're going to get a great indication of where they're deciding to put their marker down as to how to best manage this pitching staff. And that's a huge question moving forward, because you could get swept if Jamie has a mediocre outing on Friday, and then you have to burn Abraham for a few innings and you end up losing the game. Like, you are not set up well for Saturday and Sunday if that's what happens. But then again, it seems like it's a coin flip with a lot of these guys every time they come out there.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you think you have a pretty good handle on what the team is or is not, they turn right around. And it's been both ways. When you've been down on the team, or I've been down on the team, we've been down on the team, a stretch of poor play has you a little concerned. The hand-wringing begins. There's some data points that are worrisome, to say the least, and you're kind of like, well, I don't like the way this is trending. And you go in with trepidation to watch a big series, and then Florida State shows up huge. And they look like the team that was dominating lesser competition early, and you see them do it and apply it against a better team, a ranked team, and you go, okay, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. And then when you kind of exhale a little bit and you feel pretty good about where they're at, and you think, well, maybe the games and the stretch there where we played poor, because look, baseball season's long. This is true. It's applicable to Major League Baseball, obviously, with 162 games. Weird things happen. Teams win 7 straight, and they end up with a losing record by 20 games. Teams end up with a 100-win season and have a stretch where they lose 8 straight games. I mean, it's a long season. Weird things happen. But college baseball is also a long season. Nothing compared to the pros. But when you're going to play 40-plus games in a year, 50-plus games in some cases, you're going to have a stretch where you play poorly for 3 or 4 games. Or maybe a week goes by where you just don't look good. You've hit a lull. Timing's off. Guys are having tough plate appearances. If it happens to coincide with a bad week for the bullpen, you've dropped 3 or 4 games in a row and everybody's concerned. And then you bounce right back and you show the upper edge or levels of what you can be with the talent that you've amassed. And then maybe you begin to feel too good about what you are. That's why I say they're inconsistent, because they can be very, very good. Obviously, they're a plus team. Obviously, they're an upper echelon ACC team. And any team that positions themselves like that has a frontline starter like Jamie Arnold, to go with the offense that they have, again, any given game you could get shut out. We understand how it works. Then you feel pretty good about what you are, but you just know you're not going to sit down at any point this year against the best teams in college baseball, whether that be in the ACC tournament or in a regional, and, have this brimming with confidence feel. You're not going to do that.
Well, no, yeah, the Saturday is a great example of that. You're coming off of a rout of a win. Oh, there you go. I didn't mean to put that. That's what that bullpen drives you to do. And you're up 4-0, and they scratch across 1 in the 5th. No big deal. Vellini goes back out there, and you're thinking, all right, let's just get another 3-4 outs out of you if we can. Now, in the 5th, you're in trouble, because you go to the pen, and you see how many outs you need to get. And even at 4-1, when Peyton comes in, you're thinking, there's a lot of baseball to go. I don't know how we get, and you're the one with the lead. It's just,
you're wringing hands already.
Yes. And it's 4-1.
Yeah.
And you're winning, and you got a chance to take the series today. And yet you're counting outs, and you're like, my God, they got to get 12 outs. I don't know how they get 12 outs without giving up 4 or 5 runs. I think we're going to need to score 7 today or 8 today. That's the thing that a bullpen like ours can do to you. It flips it. When Vellini comes out of the game, you go, I don't know, man. That's why I hope that if they're going to use Abraham this weekend, that they could pair him with Vellini. And I think that strengthens that second day a hell of a lot more, as long as Jamie gives you length on Fridays. But he's supposed to. Like, you have to draw it up that way and hope that he can get you into the 7th inning, or maybe complete 7 innings, because with the staff the way it is right now, the bullpen the way it is right now, I should say, you kind of have to have it in order to stack things advantageously for games 2 and 3.
So when things are shortened and it's not a week-to-week season and it's not a bunch of games like we've had up until, and this coming up, and we're starting to get a glimpse of what that looks like, Tom, without the midweek game, and you shorten everything, and that includes the number of people that you run out there because you're not trying to save anybody anymore. Now we come down to home stretch, and you have a concentrate like you're talking about, then you see a path for Florida State. They have to be, they don't have a lot of wiggle room, but you see a path for Florida State to get big series wins, big postseason wins, and survive in advance. You see that path. they're more problematic over a longer stretch of gameplay because they don't have the arms in the bullpen that are reliable, consistent. You don't have that. But you don't have to have that in the postseason. Now, if one of the guys that you end up turning to when we formulate what you're talking about, this concentrate of players that you're going to use as arms in the postseason, if one of them has a bad day, you lose and you're up against it and you're in deep, deep trouble because you can't bounce back from that. So your margin for error is small.
Yeah, I think if this was a prize fight, you'd have to win it in the early rounds. You have to score the knockout in the early rounds because if this thing goes the distance or to the championship rounds, you're going to have to slug your way to it. You probably need to take the first two every situation that you get in a must-win scenario because game 3, you're going to have to show up to the ballpark and score 9, 10, 11 runs. And I know that Louisville is very good offensively.
Offensively, they're very, very good.
Really good offensive team. So maybe it's a little unfair. But, I think you're showing up with Mendez in game 3 of a given series saying we need to score at least a half dozen. And that's what the expectation needs to be at this point. So we'll see how they stack up the pitching, but I really think that you're going to have to front load this thing and try to win the first 2 games of each series moving forward because of those key 9 games I was talking about last week. The goal was to go 5-4. You were kind of close to starting at 2-1, but now you're going to have to win 2 out of 3 here against Clemson, and then we play North Carolina in 2 weeks. Again at home, you get those 2 series at home, which is very nice, and they're sandwiched around the Cal series. Man, I think it's going to have to be Friday, Saturday wins.
I want to point to something. I see some folks. I just jumped back over into the chat to say hello to everybody. But guys, you've listened to this show, right? How long have I sat here and bitched about our situation at catcher? Yeah, man, this ain't new. They got a problem at catcher. They're not good defensively at catcher, no matter who they throw back there. It doesn't really matter. Any of those guys are not plus catchers. They're not. They're not good receivers of the baseball. They don't consistently, fundamentally do what they need to do to stay in front of the baseball. They aren't exactly throwing guys out at an alarming clip. That's for sure. We were made to look like children. Now, lest you think this is something that happens to Florida State and nobody else, we had a couple Major League Baseball games this year in which teams stole 7, 9, 14 bases over 2 days in the pros. So this is what scouting does. When you find out somebody doesn't have a plus, and as a Mets fan, you had Piazza back there for years looking like an a-hole. There was nobody sorrier in Major League Baseball history than Piazza at catcher. And people would just laugh when they got to first because they could jog to second. He wasn't throwing anybody out. But like that, it hurts. It sucks. And sometimes you say, well, I'll trade it for the offense. In Piazza's case, that's what they did. They're like, well, he's one of the best hitting catchers of all time. We'll have to offset the fact that teams are going to run like the wind blows when they get on base, but he's going to hit 2 or 3 home runs in this series that are huge. That's kind of how that went.
That's so true. Man, I did not expect you to bring that up in the opening segment on a Monday, 25 years after it was a problem, but it was a problem.
What's a problem?
Dude's on second.
If he walked, he was on second.
8th or 9th inning, you're like, well, he's on second.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Thanks for that.
So, that's a tough thing, man. That's a brutal thing. And, the arm strength and all of that, it's tough. That's been a problem all year long. And it made you look bad. And what happens when you're watching that as a fan, you feel helpless and you lash out because you say, well, this is humiliating. But remember, we've done that to teams too. We've run on jokers all day long. You see some teams come in here, especially early in the year, like, oh, this poor kid, they know it. And this is going to be a base stealing festival. And Link it's automatic.
And some of it also is the pitching staff as well. You can do a better job of getting, to home. But the problem is when you have control issues, you're really worried about landing your mechanics to locate the pitch. So you're going to be slower. You're going to take a couple tenths more because you're trying to be precise in your mechanics. Because if I keep throwing balls, it doesn't matter that he steals. I'm going to walk him in. So you're between a rock and a hard place in a lot of these situations. Yeah. And these are the little details that add up to series losses. You see the path to Florida State's season ending early. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You see the path there.
Yeah. No, they're not the odds-on favorite to win the national championship.
But they do have enough
to win a bunch of games.
Yes,
so this is why I describe them the way I do. There are days you watch them, they look like a complete team. They do a lot well. They accentuate their strengths. They're able to disguise to an extent their weaknesses, and they win a series against a really good team. Or they beat somebody in a one-off. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to see them beat it. Listen, would you be shocked? I don't think you would be. If you either swept Clemson or got swept by Clemson. You wouldn't be shocked with either result. It is rare to say that about any team.
Yeah, correct. I fully would not be shocked with any outcome this weekend. Run rules one way, run rules the other way, sweep one way, sweep the other way. Yes.
Let's get to the break because I want to come back and talk about Jalen King.
He's tugging on an ETSU t-shirt for the audio audience.
I know about Jalen King, and I'll tell you about him in a second, and we'll talk a little bit about Florida State, where they're at post the portal window closing, or at least the window for which you could put your name in there. We'll talk about the ones that have and the ones that are still being looked at by Florida State, and we'll talk about the people that Florida State got a yes from, which is good news, I think, in both cases, or at least two of those cases, I could say. I'm pretty excited. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Do you have spring fever? Your only prescription is the Lawn Johns. Hi, it's Mark from the Lawn Johns. We can make your landscape more appealing by providing you with award-winning lawn care. With 4 levels of service, the Lawn Johns offers you more choices than the rest. More flowers, more mulch, or more pine straw all means that your home or office will be more beautiful than ever. So if you've got spring fever, go to thelawnjohns.com or just look for our big purple truck.
I gotta have more cowbell.
Porterman, you're walking crooked again. What happened to you?
Well, I was sitting at the boat ramp sipping on a margarita when my alligator Hank decided we needed to go water skiing.
Oh, no.
Next thing you know, Hank's strapped to 4 skis and I'm hanging on his back and the boat is pulling us out. It was all going great till Hank spotted a duck in the lily pads and wanted to jump the wake.
Porterman, you're crazy. No wonder you got hurt.
Yep, 1 second it's air, water, air, then bam, now I can't even bend over to put on my own water skis.
Well, Porterman, you better get over to Thin Chiropractic right now. You can book an appointment online and take advantage of the new patient special.
Special offer online? That's easier than wrestling an airboat off a sandbar.
That's right. Just go to thinchiro.com. FENNCHIRO.com. FENNCHIRO.com.
That's it. I'm headed over there boogity to get straightened out.
Fresh Florida blueberries. In a world of jumbo-sized snacks and artificial flavors, Florida blueberries stand proud, bursting with antioxidants and ready to tackle hunger, one delectable bite at a time. From muffins to smoothies or straight out of the carton, they are the tiny titans of taste, delivering freshness as bold as they are blue, proving once again that good things come in small packages. To see what Florida blueberries can do for you, visit freshfromflorida.com today.
Now that the brutal North Florida and South Georgia winter is over, okay, we had a couple of cold snaps, but still, now is the best time to give your AC system a good cleaning. Dust can build up in your AC system, leading to higher utility bills and poor air quality. That's when it's E&B to the rescue. Our 21-point inspection and tune-up costs only $99 and gets things working their very best. So before the summer hits, get your AC spick and span. Call E&B Heating and Air Conditioning today.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I think this is the route Mike has to take, Mike Norvell, when talking to players in recruiting, whether it be prep recruiting or in the portal. I loved what I heard right from the jump on Friday night. Former Houston cornerback Jeremiah Wilson committing to Florida State. You know, this is something that we first talked about last week when we saw that Florida State was eyeing a transfer corner. It led to some consternation, which is to say, God, that means, again, we may have whiffed on all of these athletes we have in the secondary that we've talked so highly about, you know, guys that we thought were capable of filling the role to be a starting corner. And, you know, that was a place that we labeled as a lot of competition and a lot of length, a lot of speed, a lot of things that you felt good about while trying to get a sense of who was winning the competition, because we were not allowed at practice during spring. So you couldn't really know. You would just get reports as to who was, well, first of all, who was playing, who wasn't, who was injured, who wasn't, that kind of a thing. And then, unfortunately, when I went to the scrimmage, I couldn't get a great sense of how the corner play was going because Florida State didn't have any of their receivers. So you had Florida State's missing its offensive lineman and missing its top three wide receivers at that scrimmage. Good luck trying to get a sense of who's doing what in the pass game at that particular scrimmage, the lone scrimmage we were allowed to go to. So I couldn't know one way or the other where we were at with a lot of that competition. But I think that a lot of us, I don't want to speak for you, felt pretty good anyhow on the surface about the bodies that were competing for the job, the folks that we knew of already from having seen. We remember the recruitment. We know what their measurables are. We felt good about it. And then to find out right off the bat that Florida State was looking to bring in a proven corner, you felt a little frustrated by that because of what it said about previous recruiting failures potentially. Now, you have to separate that from this player and what he could be for Florida State and this get from the portal. Those are two separate things. Does it say you continue to whiff in recruiting? Perhaps it might say that you're continuing to whiff in recruiting. Is this also a good get and perhaps a necessary get? I think so. We have, once again, somebody who fits under the umbrella of proven starter in college football, successful proven starter in college football, who has played a ton of college football. So you have a known commodity when you get Jeremiah Wilson.
Yeah, and somebody who knows how to play this specific scheme that Tony White wants to run, which I think if you were going to be positive, you would say that, you know, maybe Tony likes the profile of these kids that he inherited on the roster, but he doesn't believe that they're comfortable enough in the scheme yet, and he'd rather have a sure thing. You know, and these kids can grow into the knowledge of the scheme, and he'll get them to develop and play the way that he wants them to play.
That's a positive spin.
Well, I mean,
you may be right.
Hey, this is why the PR firm gets paid.
No, that's a positive spin that might be applicable. Not saying it isn't. We don't know.
At the same time, you know, I mean, none of them, you know, or it's such a glaring weakness because we recruited well at that position the last couple of years in terms of the recruiting rankings, yes, but the offer list for the kids that chose us. It's not like we were beating out the Wake Forests of the world for a low-level 4-star. You're beating Southeastern Conference teams for these kids' services. So they were well thought of by teams that are factories to the pros at this specific position. That's a good indicator that you brought in a good player beyond 6'1.5" with a long wingspan and springy athleticism. Like, you know, you check all those boxes, and we did it at that position better than most other positions. Offensively and defense.
There was a stretch there where I would have argued we did it better there than anywhere else. And it's not like we've been running out a bevy of great linebackers. It's not like we're out here just forever throwing NFL linemen to the NFL, as Corey documented over the weekend on the post on warchant.com that I would invite you to read and then blow your head off.
And specifically at corner too, because at safety's been a concern of mine, but not corner. Like you've littered this roster with blue chip corners. So yeah, it's frustrating on the one hand. On the other, this kid does have the knowledge of the specific scheme. And maybe Tony's thinking, I think they know it, but I'm not sure that they know it in time for Alabama. Let me go get this kid that knows it in time for Alabama, and he can teach these other kids. Because the reputation that Jeremiah has, one of his teammates put out on Twitter, is that he taught me how to watch film. Well, that's a good sign.
That helps.
I like to hear that kind of thing.
He'll be here May 19th. Field corner. Might be the starter. We'll see. I think they brought him in to be a starter.
They better have.
I think so. Here's the language I like. I love the intensity Coach Norvell has in the strain here at FSU. Now, cynically, we could say, oh, buddy, it's been a strain. But that's not what he's saying. I want to be part of it. He told me he's going to push me to be the best version of myself. He didn't lie to me. He told me there's going to be bad days, that there will be hard days. He didn't sugarcoat any of that. That's what sold me. That's what will sell kids. That's what sold Jared Verse. That's what sold Braden Fisk. That's what sold any number of hits in the portal. Far fewer in the high school ranks, but I think Mike has to engage a little bit more actively in that way of talking with and recruiting the high school ranks as well. I think that plays. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to be challenged. These are competitive people. You don't play football if you're not extremely competitive. It's just too hard. You can lackadaisically play any number of sports. Football ain't one of them. So you better get the most out of all that hard work. You better have somebody who's going to challenge you to get the most out of what you are. And I think that's Mike's greatest strength. I mean, he is very excitable, sometimes for the bad, sometimes for the good, but this is for the good. This is where I think it is a very relatable skill. And I've just seen a consistent through line there. When he does win, when he does get a guy of value, when he does get a yes, almost 99% of the time, if you go back and look at the quotes from those guys, they reference how Mike Jermaine Johnson. When I talked to Jermaine at that pre-party the year that I was doing the guest coaching thing for the spring football game, that's the first question I asked Jermaine Johnson. It was inferred in my question to him was, why did you leave Georgia to come here? I mean, and oh, by the way, you don't look like anybody else we have. How did you end up here? Well, Mike didn't lie to me. He challenged every aspect of who I was. He told me it wasn't going to be easy. He said that he was going to make me a much better NFL draft prospect because not only would I be physically ready to play, but I would be mentally ready to play, and I would know better how to lead other men. Well, that was one of the great quotes ever. I remember thinking, damn it, I'm going to remember that, and jotted it down in my notes because I loved it. And I thought, well, that resonates. That works. And almost all of the guys that have come here and had success have said something eerily similar to what Jermaine Johnson said that day. Jared Verse certainly did. We know that from my interview with him when he talked about it. So this falls in line with that, and I like the previous successes that have echoed those sentiments. They have fallen into the good category, that category of guys that produce. We'll see. I've learned my lesson. We'll find out if they're put in a position to succeed and if they do, in fact, succeed on game days. I like the get. I wish they didn't have to do it, but I like the get.
Yeah, that's the right energy. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the kid. Now you're happy that he's on board. But, did we really have to go there first? Like, was that the first order of business?
Apparently.
Okay.
Well, and listen, I like this. He's asked about, what it's going to be like when he gets to Florida State and what he wants to do. Well, I want to earn their respect. My first goal is to show them and then lead by example. Okay, thank you, man. Thank you. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he won't do that, but it certainly seems like his head's in the right place. It seems like the kind of guy, because we had a whole lot of guys not leading by example last year, a whole lot of guys not willing to work and earn respect, whole lot of guys pussyfooting, half-stepping on the daily. This sounds like a kid who's going to come in ready to go. A hair on fire kind of kid. That's exciting. I like it.
Yeah, and if he has knowledge of the scheme and he's willing to teach it like he taught his teammates at Houston, the one safety who also entered in the portal, then okay, teach it to our younger kids. Let's let you be the Jermaine Johnson that helps the defensive back room and changes the trajectory of that room. The Dylan Gibbons, that it's contagious. It's got to be contagious again. We know that Mike has a very good pitch for when the chips are down, clearly, because he bounced back from 0-4, and he turned it into something significant after that, and he got a lot of kids out of the portal to say yes to Florida State when there was no reason to earlier in his career, and he's got to do it again.
Yeah, he does, and they also add Jalen King, comes over from ETSU. I look forward to talking to that young man about his experience in Johnson City. The first thing that stood out to me about him, first of all, he's a kid who's physically, he's a bigger kid. At 6'3", 215 or so pounds. This is a kid who's run the football to the tune of almost 500 yards, a lot of opportunities to run the ball. Now, he's lacking as a passer. He's going to have to really polish that part of his game. But when you're trying to build depth for the offense that we're running, and you need guys to be able to run this system, especially guys who may have to get thrown in there in a pinch because of the fact that you're going to run your quarterback. You're going to run your quarterback. And Castellanos is tiny. He's a wee little man. And there's a good chance amongst the Giants that he gets popped a few times this year and has to come out. Let's hope it's not long-term. He's elusive. He gets down. He's a kid that probably protects himself pretty well as a runner because he's never been big. So he knows how to do that. But you're going to have some people that are able to fill in that can ably run the football and have the body type to do it. And so when you get somebody that has started, a lot of college football games, played in 10 games in the college football world, that's helpful. You get an extra arm, and you don't wear your guys down because of that when you're working them out throughout the summer. He's a talented player who's got a lot of polishing to do in the passing game. He's not all the way there yet, but he's added depth. And, look, you're not going to get – if you want to factor in price and you want to factor in the room, those two things, then what you did here is a win-win. I can't imagine. I don't know the number. I have not inquired about the number, but I'm guessing based on what it could be, we're not having to give him a lot of money. And because he's coming from ETSU, it's not going to upset the quarterback room. Those guys that are already there don't look at that as a real threat. They're not saying, oh, okay, well, you just recruited over me. Sperry's not going to be mad about this, for example. So you get a good risk-reward type of player, a guy that can run your system, who's big enough, strong enough, fast enough, a guy who was at Florida State's camp, so they know the personality already, so they know of him, right? So it is a low-risk, high-reward sort of get. We'll see if they develop him. Don't count on him. I swear it seemed like every time I looked up, somebody wanted to know about the fourth-string quarterback. Well, we lost the fourth-string quarterback. He decided to take it on down the road. It was no big loss in my estimation, but you just replaced him with a kid who's a lot bigger and a lot stronger, and I think probably a better fit. So that's what they did, and he's familiar. The other part of that, I get the sense, is that the kid understands his role. And, it's funny because this kind of plays into the larger discussion of backup quarterbacks, third-string quarterbacks, fourth-string quarterbacks in your role, and the whole Shedeur Sanders thing in the NFL with teams passing. This all kind of plays together. You got to know what they're bringing you in to do, what they think of you, what you are.
Yeah, there would be no reason to blow smoke just to get this kid's commitment. It would be a very honest dialogue about what the expectations are. This screams emergency option at quarterback for me.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I mean, bring in a quality athlete for some depth who's got the requisite size and probably picks up the system pretty quickly. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
A police pursuit that began at a routine road check. Ellen Noel now faces multiple charges. This is Rachel Anay with your Roll Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A mix of clouds and sun this afternoon with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Highs around 91. Southeast winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight. Slight chance of thunderstorms. Lows level out around 67. Chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 86. A blend of cloud and sun. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 85 degrees.
What do you need tires on? Your car or truck, tractor or heavy equipment? At Nice Tire and Auto Service, we have tires for all of these needs. And we service your vehicle from air conditioning and computerized alignment to oil changes and everything else under the hood. Call Nice Tire and Auto today at 574-4100. That's 574-4100 for your scheduled maintenance. National accounts welcome at Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, just west of Capitol Circle.
There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. You two at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude, I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
So, Marquiston Douglas leaves us, I see, and that's unfortunate. I like Biscuit. I was looking forward to seeing what he could do. It's not a loss. It's not like a material loss for the depth of this team and their talent. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we're in trouble because Marquiston Douglas decided to once again re-enter the portal after coming back to Florida State for the spring. You know, I mean, you go back and you look at Biscuit and his time here. He's been, you know, he's good and old. Had some good years for us.
Maybe you just wanted to be around friends for a couple months.
But, you know, you brought in UCF transfer Randy Pittman, who had an incredible spring and is going to be, I think, a focal point for this offense at that position. He's going to be a guy that contributes quite a bit. And you already have Landon Thomas, who's really talented. And then you brought in Chase Laughlin. And there's another guy that had a very productive spring and has a unique skill set.
Yeah, and you could play Amari Williams back at tight end if you'd like to.
Yeah.
And because he's a freak of an athlete. The thing that I was disappointed by was I felt like of all of those skill sets, he was your best potential inline guy if you needed a little bit of beef. I know he had trimmed down to under 270 pounds, which for him is a big win. But I thought from a blocking standpoint, he might be your best fit there. Because I know Gus does line up his tight ends in the backfield. He uses them as an H-back, but he could have been your traditional off right tackle, left tackle guy, and he will no longer be that.
So he leaves, and if you want a thorough breakdown, and I'll talk about it with Ira next hour, in fact, of the people that have gone and the people that have come in and where we stand now, we'll do that. But there's an article on warchant.com right now for you to read there. Do that. I would marry that with the read that Corey Clark has over the weekend as well, documenting the lack of receivers and offensive linemen being produced to the NFL as homegrown talent, as somebody that we brought in from a high school ranks. I mean, we really barely get any credit at all because thankfully we've had a few transfers that have made it. But, man, it's been a tough road to hoe. And I think it's a snapshot and part of a larger answer as to why there's been so much inconsistency here. You know, we've had Florida State has been bipolar It's a place that has won big when it won here in the last 15 years. But when it loses big too. And we have these crazy seasons in where you go, oh my God, they could win the national championship. And then you go, man, this team is a hard watch. I'm not sure they're going to win, in some cases, 6 games. And that's equally as frustrating as glorious as the successes are disastrous as the failures. It's just, it's this extreme. And that's because of the inconsistency, I think, with really an important position like offensive line, but also the inexcusable lack of wide receivers.
Well, and just the recruiting in general, the recruiting and development. It's your R&D of football. Instead of research and development, it's your recruiting and your development. And this weekend was frustrating because another guy that you had a clean shot at, in Cam Brooks, defensive end, edge rusher at Thomas County Central, goes on a visit to Cal and commits to Cal.
Yeah, it's a toughie. Cal just lost their entire team.
Right. Now, many think that that's not going to hold, that might be a commitment for a little while, but maybe it might be a nice calculated play in order to move the market a little bit. But good freaking Lord, this one was in particular kind of like fish in a barrel.
Yeah, it's a kick in the boys.
And you didn't land it. You didn't land that first commitment because I think he would have stuck if you did it properly from the beginning. It's another red flag on the recruiting front. You might still get the kid, but it shouldn't have had to come to he goes to Cal and commits to Cal. Like, what the hell?
Well, Tom, what's happened now for Mike and his staff, and we've seen people get fired and come and go, but what's happened now is they don't, and nor should they. I was explaining this over the weekend to my youngest son, who was talking about why is Florida State, so inconsistent. He brought it up. He wanted to know, like, how could we – it's like it just hit him. We went 2-10 last year. And he's out of the blue. He asked me a question about it. I said, son, they don't recruit. They don't do a good job recruiting, not consistently well. And if they don't hit at an alarmingly high rate where they put a ton of pressure on themselves, if they don't hit in the portal, they don't have anything to fall back on. They don't have a homegrown, well-developed kid that's been here for 2 years because we brought him in from the high school ranks to fall back on. They don't have quality depth because of a lack of recruiting success. And so when they whiff on a kid, if they either miss eval in the transfer portal or a kid says no and goes elsewhere, they don't have anything coming up from the bottom that you recruited and you groomed and readied for the system or whatever it might be and plug and play. You don't. So they lack depth, they lack quality, and this leads to disaster. You have to hope like hell that this season is the impetus for change on that front. There's no way they can't now know that this is a problem. They have been kicked in the face repeatedly. He now knows that this can't continue. The problem you have is that even though you might acknowledge it, you might even, publicly acknowledge it. You might even say, if you had a bout of honesty in the moment and you didn't think it made you look weak, we haven't done a good enough job. I thought about Link Jarrett last week after Max Williams got kicked out of the game, and he says, well, we haven't done a good job around here of kind of getting kids to channel their emotions. Yeah, he's admitting, right? We got to do a better job of that. I think Mike might be willing to admit that they have got to get a lot better in recruiting. The problem is you can't just say it and then it's so. And you may obviously desperately want, and I'm sure they do, to get past this, to get over this, to change their reputation, to find success. But 2-10 is going to handcuff you. 2-10 is not going to allow for a quick change, a quick overnight. I know we live in the era where teams can go from really good to really bad and really bad to really good. And we now know that a traditional way of viewing a program season to season really doesn't apply the way it once did. I got all of that. But this has been a multi-year process and problem. And so I think it's going to take a little bit more than just, I need to change my mindset. I need to change the intensity with which we recruit. I need to change the expectation of my assistant coaches regarding the job they do in recruiting. You're going to have to post some successes on the field in order to get yeses off of it. And that won't happen until you start playing games and show that you're better and show that you're not in the middle of a collapse that a lot of these recruits can't help but wonder about. I think that if I'm a guy that has a choice Maybe not between Cal and Florida State, although Berkeley's beautiful. But if I'm a guy that has a choice between an upper-level Power 4 program, certainly one that didn't go 2-10 a year ago, and the money's the same, I might apt to fall into the arms of those that had a successful season and have sustained success.
Yeah, agreed on all fronts. The Cal thing that's the red flag here. It's not that he said yes to Alabama, or Georgia. It's like, Cal, okay. So I think that's a placeholder commitment, and I think that story is not completely written yet. I like you can't speak in definitives about what this staff is or isn't recruiting wise yet. However, if you're going to argue the other side, they closed strong in the winter window. They found a way to close strong in the early signing period with kids coming off a 2-10, flipping from Ole Miss. And you've heard me say it a million times, Ole Miss and Auburn and Georgia, yada, yada, yada. We know what that's about. It's about investment. It's about making a pitch and an investment. You telling me you can't do that in the spring? You can't make that investment and have a kid say yes to you for a little bit of recruiting momentum on the trail in the spring. I mean, it's at least a yellow alert with this 2.0 staff in recruiting. I'm not saying it's a red alert, but they're not doing gangbusters right now either.
Yeah, I look, man, I don't feel a sense that this is changing in the way we needed to as quickly as we needed to, and I'm with you on all of that.
You should probably see more healthy signs.
Yes, absolutely. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with.
People always talk about how bad it gets when the hits the fan. Well, that's pretty high up.
It's now that time of year where you're trading in those golf pants for the shorts because you need breathability. There's a lot of sweating that's going to be going on over the next 5 to 6 months of your life if you live where we do in Tallahassee or anywhere in the southeastern footprint on Warchant TV and the Warchant Podcast Network. Well, Bird Dogs to the rescue because they combine comfort, fit, versatility. You can wear these shorts everywhere. Here's 2 pairs that have been sent my way from our friends at Bird Dogs. Excellent blue color. You can see the built-in liner there. So it's a 2-for-1 here. You don't have to worry about 2 pieces of clothing. You could just use the liner that Bird Dogs has. Outstanding breathability. It's stretch fit. It's super light. These things are going to save your bacon if you're outdoors this spring and summer, be it on the golf course, you're going to happy hour, but your friend is insistent on sitting outside to go get that glass of wine or that cocktail. All right, if you were wearing those old khaki shorts or those old stiff cargo shorts from yesteryear, you were going to be sweating, and that was going to be a problem. Now, breathability, baby. This is exactly what you want, and it's from our friends at Bird Dogs. For a limited time for our listeners and viewers, you get a free hat when you order with code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. You get this hat right here on the screen completely free when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. Support our network and let them know we sent you. Again, one more time, for a limited time, listeners get a free hat with any order when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. You get this hat on the screen completely free when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com.
3% of Eliquis patients. Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show, live and local on Real Talk 93.3, WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas.
Atlanta Braves today, $1.75 road favorite of the Rockies, plus 145. Bryce Elder on the mound for the Braves. Brian Feltner for the Rockies, 10.5 over the total at Coors Field in Denver. Orlando Magic down 3-1. Visit Boston tomorrow, looking to extend the series. Boston, a 12.5-point favorite, 199.5 the total. Scotty Scheffler plus 250 to win the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson at TPC Craig Ranch this week. Kyle Larson, the 3-1 favorite during the NASCAR Cup Series title. The series heading this week at the Texas Motor Speedway for the worth $400. $250 bonus, and you open up a GBank Visa signature card. Visa.com/GBank. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
Spring into deals and save on seasonal projects at Lowe's. Right now, get 4 select 8-pack annuals for just $10. Plus, get a free 60-volt Toro battery when you purchase a select 60-volt Toro electric mower. Don't miss out on these fresh spring savings. Shop in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/30 while supplies last. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. Excludes Alaska.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Widden Glass has been taking care of business since 1945. When you call Widden Glass, you're dealing with experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best. Like Widden's top-of-the-line bath enclosures that provide style and luxury at an affordable price. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Widden Glass. We'll help you design it and install it. Widden Glass, the first name in glass replacement. Call 222-5781.
Ain't nothing but a G-Pod, baby. I am 99% sure that is not how the lyrics go. Well, you like remixes, right? Of course. Well, think of this as a Grassroots Coffee remix per se, because Grassroots Coffee is now in the single-serve coffee pod game. Dude, those single-serve coffee pods and cups are weak sauce. Not Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. They have more coffee in them than regular single-serve pods and cups. Seriously? And not only do they have more coffee, they have a built-in filter for better brewing. They fit in most Keurig machines, and they are fully compostable. It's still the small batch, slow-roasted coffee you love, so go to grassrootscoffee.com and get your box of G-Pods today. Baby! See? Remix! Well, actually, that's more of an homage. Grassroots Coffee, locally owned, locally roasted, and made for everyone, loved everywhere. Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. So very good.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Florida's capital city. This is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
State base between the closing of the portal window for people to enter their name and the additions and those that we talked about and really the overall plight of Florida State. Actually, I can marry it to whatever the other big stories of the day were, certainly out of the draft. I looked big picture and brought it back home, and I'll start there because the draft is behind us. And 257 players are taken, so we always get a chance to put a ribbon on this thing afterwards. We won't know for 3-4 years who did well, who didn't do well. We all have an opinion on who we thought drafted well. I tend to want to get into the larger discussion, kind of being geeky about the draft, with not necessarily saying, well, this player was the right player or that player was the wrong player. We all have opinions on that. But rather, was the approach by said team the right approach, given their needs, given who was on the board? That's a more interesting way to debate a draft, because we've all learned, and so have those executives, that a guy you think can't play sometimes can, and a guy you think can definitely play sometimes can't. And every degree in between, right? We've all watched that. You're like, I don't know about that. And then it turns out 7 years later, you're going, guy had a nice career. Turned out to be a pretty good player. Other times you're like, that was a home run. We did it. What a pick. 2 years later, released. Okay. I think we got that one wrong. He was just a good college football player. It happens all the time. And that's the wisdom of age, I guess, having been really wrong and really right and everything in between with our own opinions about players. Most notably, everybody's got a thought on quarterbacks. So 257 players taken. Have you done a lot of reading post-draft? I'll ask you, and really, I guess, rhetorically to everybody else, but to you, it's a real question.
Of the classics or draft literature?
Draft literature.
I saw more draft literature after rounds 2 and 3 than I did total recap after Saturday rounding out. So I know some numbers about the splits from night 1 and then night 2, but I'm sure that the numbers were matured over the last.
Well, I'm just kind of curious. I was going to pose this to everybody out there: how many people of the 257 players taken came from the SEC or the Big Ten? What?
No, I'm thinking back to the to Thursday. It was basically all 20 some odd out of 32, and then the percentage was still drastic on after Friday.
Yeah.
160? I don't know.
Close. Very good guess. There were, as I said, I'll repeat for everybody. Here we go. 257 players taken overall in the draft. 150 of them were from either the SEC or the Big Ten. The SEC produced 79. The Big Ten produced 71. All right. You get a snapshot in a nutshell of the problem everybody else now has, which is that those two leagues, it's not close, have the most amount of talent. And that's why they push so heavily for the automatics in the playoffs. They're going to tell you that the brand of football and the caliber of player faced on a weekly basis is unquestionably better than your conference. The draft results suggest that is true and becoming more true by the day. The ACC of the Power Four was the next closest to those two juggernauts. 79 from the SEC, 71 from the Big Ten. The next closest, the ACC, 42. Everybody else, sucking hind teat.
Okay.
It ain't good.
I would have gone with Bupkis, but sure.
The Big 12 had 31. So 33 out of 257 players were not from Power 4 schools. 33. So bigger picture, if you're not playing in the Big 4, if you will, the Power 4, you got a problem if you're trying to get to the NFL. Now, here's the bigger problem. It used to be that more of those players existed, but they get snatched up by the Power 4.
Right.
That's how that works.
Yeah, exactly. They might have been slept on in the high school recruiting process.
Late developing, whatever it might be, right? Grew 4 inches and gained 50 pounds? Sure.
Right. Yeah, but you're a feeder league. No. You know, all leagues not named the Power 2 are feeder leagues.
Feeder leagues.
Unless you want to really distribute the cash. to retain these players if you hit on some long shots or, hometown discounts or homegrown player in your backyard, those types of things. But yeah, the recruiting pitch is clear. Before it was assumed, and it was backed by data, but not as drastic as this.
Yeah.
This is the most drastic the data has been for those coaches to go into living rooms and to sway kids one way or the other.
Well, then I took it a step further because I only care about Florida State, and screw all the rest of those other schools. I want Florida State to be great. I want Florida State to whoop ass. I want Florida State to stop sucking. I want Florida State to matter again. I want Florida State to win the ACC. I want Florida State to get out of this godforsaken conference. I want to be an annual contender for the college football playoff. So I'm looking solely through the prism of Florida State and their plight to get back to being an elite football program, a program that already possesses a ton of cachet, elite history, but is wildly inconsistent, as we just talked about, over the last 10 years. Maddeningly so. Way too inconsistent. And so I say, what's the mountain we must climb, and how do we begin the journey? Let's go. Now, we all know it is as simple as you need to start getting better players, hence the constant recruiting discussion, all right? But if you're wondering where you got to get to in order to have a chance to win the whole damn thing and be a part of this annual dance of the college football playoff, you got to get to a place that sees you producing in mass the way we did a couple of years ago, NFL talent. Ohio State, that would be your reigning invitational champions. The Ohio State Buckeyes had 14 players drafted. 14. You know who the next closest was? Somebody that would also kick our head in. Texas. He's done a good job recruiting there. You know who was after that? Somebody who did a couple of years ago kick our head in. I know the circumstances were a little unfair. Georgia. Those two schools had 6 players drafted. Yes, that's correct, Brett. They had 7 of the top 45 at Ohio State. That is the best money could buy. The roster was loaded, and they made no bones about it. They told you they were going to do it, and they did it. It makes the loss to Michigan all the more inexplicable, quite frankly. But they did redeem themselves by winning the national title. Speaking of Michigan, they're still producing NFL talent. Them and Oregon, of course, they produced 5. So, again, when you marry all of this and you see 257 players drafted, 150 of them out of either the SEC or the Big Ten, you see the next closest with the ACC at 42, and that will continue to fall, I do believe. And then you see the elite teams producing 7, 8, and 14 players to the NFL draft, and Florida State having 2. You really kind of, it's a toughie.
There's work to be done.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of work to be done because if you project to next year's draft, how many you got coming off this roster right now?
Well, I think you're looking at setting the number around 4.5.
Yeah. And
I have to do it quickly, but 4.5, it might be higher than that, but I think 4.5 is a good number. James Williams, Darrell Jackson, Deuce Robinson, Randy Pittman, maybe an offensive lineman, because all these transfers. I mean, you got to get to the 7th.
Yeah.
Round. I'm not asking for a Friday pick. I'm just, yeah. You got a lot. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of dudes here.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, by definition, will be graduating up the ranks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, this is just, again, a quick glance at some, cursory glance at the numbers there that are overwhelmingly in favor of these programs that are well ahead of where Florida State's at, and a goal to get back to where you're producing in masses. What makes it so frustrating is the team that didn't get their shot, didn't get their invitation to play. We know how many they had drafted. I mean, it was basically that roster was full of NFL talent, much the way we see these teams elite up there. Now, those, again, were all transfer players. Come on, man. We're going to need to do better than that. We understand that, but by hook or by crook, you got to have NFL players on your roster if you want to win a national championship and you want to go deep into a college football playoff. And right now, we're having a hard time with that. Get you some wins, and we'll see if that changes. I thought it was interesting that the story was at least from the talking heads on ESPN and the NFL Network and a few other places that exclusively cover the draft, was the Shedeur Sanders free fall. But, really, I think I was probably more surprised that Ewers fell that far. Now, you think about his situation, and there's a kid that he's got to be kicking himself big time. The fact that he decided to turn pro and not transfer and get paid out the wazoo for NIL money turned out to be a grievous error. Quinn Ewers could have made a lot more money than he's going to make if he makes the team with the Dolphins as a seventh. This is going to weigh heavily on a lot of people's decisions moving forward. That's the bigger, real story. The Shedeur Sanders story is not a real story. That's a draft analyst overprojection followed by a hysterical temper tantrum. That's us watching Mel Kiper break down on air. Tom and I might disagree on this, but I think he just lost his job. They'll wait for this to fade, and then he's got to go because he made a fool of himself in his network. And I thought he was, at one point, I honestly believe this is not sensationalism, I thought he was going to start crying. It was something to behold. I felt like Mel Kiper cared more about Shedeur Sanders not getting drafted until the 5th round than Shedeur Sanders did.
You might have a point.
And I think I'm right about that.
Yeah. If he was going to break down, it would have been with Reese and Louis Riddick. Yeah.
Well, it was something, and they were tired of him.
Right.
They were like, look, dude, get a grip.
Well, yeah, I think that's where Reese could have said, are you all right? And you might have had the moment that you were thinking was happening. Are you good?
Yeah, you about to. Yeah.
Everything all right?
Were you paid? Like did you? What happened?
Mel, the draft can wait. Mel,
are you okay?
Are you all right?
Are you going to have a breakdown on air? We need to go to commercial.
I think it's phenomenal television, and so they'll have him back. They'll be happy to have him back as long as he doesn't feel ashamed by the moment and decide to hang it up. I agree with you. But in the world of embrace debate and first take, man, that's what ESPN wants right there. That's what they want.
I think they do in some cases. Daytime television for sure. I'm not so sure they want that on their anchor desk for the draft. I think he makes a mockery of their draft coverage in the moment. He looks like a fool. He sounds like a fool. He's completely unhinged. At one point, I detected some drool and really, honestly, I did. I almost took a picture of it, but I thought it was a little bit much. He was losing his mind. It was like having an argument with somebody who's lost the ability to be rational and discuss an issue. And we've all been there. We've all been on opposite sides of the fence on an issue, and you just want to have a real, it might be stern, but you're going to have a real quid pro quo. We're going to have a real discussion here. You're going to make your points. I'm going to make mine. And all of a sudden it turns emotional. And now you're like clearly in your feelings, and we can't even have a talk about the facts of the age. That was Mel Kiper in the moment. Because when you looked around the league, when you read, and I read a ton of this coverage, it doesn't mean they're all going to get it right. Most of the time, there are going to be some hits and there's going to be some misses.
You are a fountain of this. This would be like asking you the top 10 alternative records that have come out in the last 3 months.
Right.
You vociferously consume draft content.
I love it. And I read everything there was to read and stuff I probably shouldn't have read just to try to lend some context to this. And there were credible draft previews that featured a lot of quotes, many of whom were obviously, non-credited, because that's what happens when you want people to talk honestly off the record. They will. If they have put their names to it, it doesn't happen in any line of work, really, because people don't want to lose their job and they don't want to they don't want an entire fan base for whoever drafts that person to come after them. So they're usually like, look, I'll just tell you this. This is what my coach thinks. If he's a scout, this is what we think. This is what the tape says to us. And so if you're a reporter like that, you're going to talk to many of those people hopefully who've built up credibility over the years. You're going to talk to many of those people as you possibly can. And then you're going to have a sense of what that is, right? Well, reading, whether it be The Athletic or anybody else for that matter.
Walter Football, before it crashes your browser. I just want to read one more paragraph. I know this. I'm going to have to reboot the system with all these ads.
But you can go through all of it and you'll see a lot of criticisms. This has, even before you get to the way he mishandled all the interviews, which really did him no favors whatsoever. And then for that, I blame his dad for, I think, constantly fueling him to believe that he was going to be a high draft choice, trying to will it into being, even though the tape and the analysts for each of these teams and networks told him, you're not that in the eyes of NFL coaches and GMs. You're not that guy.
Right. Yes. And Riddick had his moment on Thursday where he was right there mad with Mel. But by Saturday, by the time that rolls around.
Because the NFL had spoken and he worked in NFL front offices.
Right. Well, and he still wants to. He's gunning for it. So that's where the conversation, they were graceful with him 9 times. And 10 times he retorted with insanity. And they were finally done with him. They said, look, you can believe what you want, Mel.
Yeah.
But the NFL has spoken that those interviews did have an impact on where he was selected. You can disagree with it, but it just happened. So
yeah,
what are we doing here?
Well, yeah, it was strange to watch. I mean, it's one thing when you hear somebody critical, you can point out the inconsistencies over the years of or the misses. Like you could do, everybody could do that. I mean, we can go find a list of the 20 missed. I mean, good God, Tom Brady went in the 6th round.
Well, yes. And
the 6th round.
And Tom Brady II just was drafted on Saturday, according to Mel, because he would not invoke any other name but Brady in that situation.
Okay. But anyhow, look, I mean, we could do the whole thing where you go through all of this. I mean, if you want another example, but the opposite, I'm going to give you one. The opposite of Shedeur, where Shedeur is a known player that had success in college, but whose skill set was lacking. He's not physically that gifted at all. He's not that great of a runner. He holds onto the ball for way too long. He interviews poorly. He's got a lot of things going wrong for him, but he had a successful college career. There's no getting around that. He falls to the 5th round, or if you believe a lot of what I read pre-draft, he fell somewhere in the neighborhood of where they thought he might go, between the 3rd and 5th round. Okay, fine. Trey Lance, lest we forget, got drafted 3rd overall. 3rd overall from North Dakota State, had played very little football, and the 49ers, who have a good track record in the draft, somehow puked all over themselves on that night and drafted him 3rd. He's on his 3rd team in 4 years. He's a bum. He can't play a lick. He got drafted 3rd. I could give examples both ways for every quarterback in the last 7 years. Well, the draft, for every quarterback, we go through and look at every one of them. You'll see guys that fell precipitously that surprised you and guys that got drafted way above slot that they were projected, okay? So what I'm pointing out is that it's an inexact science. Guys fall all the time. Guys get picked before anybody thought they'd get picked all the time, and everything in between. There's no grand conspiracy. There's no, oh, he was arrogant. They didn't want to take him because he was arrogant. Holy hell. Have you taken a look at the number of players in the last 5 years, last 25 years, last 35 years that would be deemed arrogant, that went number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? Good Christ, that's a dumb comment.
Yes, he's just a backup quarterback.
Right.
And you don't want a distraction with your backup quarterback. This is what happened after Tebow was jettisoned from the Broncos. And he said he only wanted to play quarterback. Well, I don't need the sideshow coming to my franchise and the beat,
right,
covering my team for a backup quarterback.
Correct.
That is a distraction, and it's a humongous problem. It's what happened to Kaepernick. Now, I know that there's political stuff in there as well, but if he was a badass frontline starting quarterback,
right,
somebody would have signed him.
Yeah.
Somebody would have signed Tebow if they knew that he would be a starter and a dominant one. But because those guys are not top-flight quarterbacks, I don't need the media frenzy. There's not enough return on the investment for me to take that chance.
No, they don't want that at all. And, you know, getting back to Mel for a second, he wasn't the only one. Klatt and others looked foolish throughout this process. They were seemingly invested beyond just the analysis. It was very interesting to see the personal effect it had on them. I don't know if they were trying to curry favor with Dion for whatever reason. I don't know why. I wouldn't hearken to his respect. I wouldn't need that, but it was strange to me that they were that way. Look, it's a straightforward set of circumstances that lead to a marginal prospect's fall. And it was uncomfortable, frankly, watching how that went. The league, and again, you know, I kind of wrote down some notes when this was all going down. I was reminded of many conversations that you and I have had over the years. And the league is a league of mercenaries. How many times have I said that?
If you're a badass, it doesn't matter if you're a multiple
You might be a
domestic
murderer.
abuser,
Yes.
sexual predator, yes, violent criminal. They don't care if 4-3 is 4-3.
It's about winning at all costs, Tom.
But if you're a backup, they don't need the sideshow.
A long history of drafting people of every ilk. White, black, green, purple, if you wish. It doesn't matter. Under the sun, they'll draft anybody if they think that that player will help them win, and thus they get to keep their job. It equals I get to keep my handsomely compensated job by ensuring at all costs that we win. We used to play the game together. You and I would play the game where you were the
Heartless.
Heartless is one way. I would say lacking morals at times when we talked about players. I mean, think about this. So, like, Daniel Jones went ahead of Josh freaking Allen.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've done this before. Again, Dwayne Haskins got drafted 15th overall. Dwayne Haskins.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, Kyler Murray went number 1 overall. There were a lot of players that were better on the board. He's somebody going to be out of the league. So we've seen, I mean, a good example, how if they really thought you could play and that it's always about the tape, again, they get it wrong a lot. They get it wrong a lot. They get it 50-50. We've talked about that. But if you, to me, above and beyond just the interviews, which clearly went poorly, and there are all kinds of reports of how he picked up his phone and answered calls while he's in the middle of an interview with a GM. At one point, he thought that it was beneath him to talk to the Steelers because they were drafting too far down in the first round and he wouldn't be around, quote unquote. All that sort of thing, I'm sure, rubbed people the wrong way, especially coming from a backup quarterback to be. But, Tom, if you go back and look, Anthony Richardson went number 4 overall.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson started 13 games in college. 13 total. You know what his completion percentage was in college?
It was 50-something.
52%.
Yeah.
Nothing about his game tape in college was an instant take, but he's a freak physically. One of the biggest arms they've ever seen. He's built like he's a smaller version of Cam Newton, but not much smaller. And he's faster. He's all of these things. And they went, God, I don't know. That upside is so huge. I'm going to do it. I'll take him. The point is, if you can play at all, even with that terrible resume,
right,
they'll take you.
Well, yeah, and Daniel Jeremiah's comp was Kenny Pickett. He's like, that's why the Steelers didn't take him, is because they just had Kenny Pickett. But then you have Kenny Pickett with a dad who will run to a national interview, and he'll get it because of his brand.
Yeah.
He'll get on any show he wants to harp on your franchise if he feels like his son isn't getting a fair shake. I don't need that in my life.
No.
So it's not just that dad's overbearing.
He didn't do him any favors.
The kid sucks in terms of interviews, so I don't even like him. It's not one of those things like, I wish his dad would pipe down. He's a really good kid in interviews. No, I'm not sure about the kid. Dad's going to be annoying, and he's Kenny Pickett. I'm going to take Jackson Dart. That's what the Saints did, and that's what everybody did. I'm going to take Dylan Gabriel.
Gabriel. That was the kick in the boys.
That's what the franchises did. Well, at least I don't have to deal with a malcontent kid who might get his act together, maybe not. And dad, every time that we bench him or there's a negative quote about him, is going to run to ESPN or NFL Network and blast our franchise. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, that's the part where you're handling yourself in the pre-draft process. You didn't throw. You don't go to senior day. To the Senior Bowl. You are unwilling to participate and to answer questions that people have about holes in your throwing motion. A lack of athleticism. Like, these are things that are answered when you view yourself reasonably. So if I'm any one of the kids that go in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, and I get a phone call from a GM, this is my opportunity to shine. I got to impress this guy. I don't take a call from a friend and tell the guy to hold on because I think they're beneath me because they're drafting 22nd or the 2nd round. Those kids all went to the Senior Bowl. Those kids participated in. There were numerous reports of, think about a guy, Alabama, who got drafted ahead of him.
Milroe.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe. Sorry, I couldn't think of Jalen. Anyhow, Jalen Milroe, when asked about the problems the tape revealed to a coach, and that coach asks him, he revealed this story. Jalen Milroe told this story. He's being interviewed about a potential suitor for him. No, he knows he's not going in the first round. The coach says, I want you to look at this, and shows him the film and criticizes his progression, his read, and the throw, and says, help me understand this. What are you seeing here? And Jalen Milroe, and I'm paraphrasing, the story's been told twice nationally, so you can find it, basically admits, I've got a lot to work on. I've got a lot to work on, and I'm not going to deny that. These are all things that I'm trying very hard to get better at. My footwork's not good there. And he names all the things that's wrong with the rep, right? And then the coach turns around and says, why would you tell me that? And he goes, well, because I don't think that I'm a finished product, for one. And two, I don't want to insult you, because to say otherwise would mean I'm suggesting you don't know how to read tape. Look at the tape. Read film. That's about as good an answer as you could have. That's perfect, but that's what you do when you're humbled. That's what you do when you don't think that you're God's gift to quarterbacks. That's what you do when you know you're not a top 10 pick. There are so few people who go in the draft that actually have the ability. Abdul Carter, for example, this year had the ability to tell teams, don't bother with me. I'm not talking to you. If you're outside the top 5, I'm not talking with you. That exists in every draft. There are prospects, non-quarterbacks and the like, that will say, I can just not run for you. I cannot live for you. I'm going to be a top 5 pick. Consensus, I am a top 3 pick. I don't have to worry about what number 9 thinks.
I only stand to lose something, so I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it. Yeah. But there's just a handful of those guys. And those guys aren't even offensive about it. They're like, listen, in all honesty, it's great. I love you, Carolina. I appreciate you, buddy. But I'm going number 3 to the Giants. So this is a waste of our time. Unless you're making a trade or something. I mean, this is, and if you are, you've already decided you're going to. So again, I wouldn't need to do this. So, it's like, but Shador is not that. But there were other compelling stories of people who free fell. And like I said, Quinn Ewers is one of them, because that dude cost himself millions in NIL money compared to what he's going to get paid as a 7th round pick, which is like, here's a bucket of balls. Good luck. Try to make the team. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Roofing and construction services. T-Mark, T-Construction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those dark leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Mark Enterprises. Roofing and construction services. T-Mark, T-Construction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Fresh Florida blueberries. In a world of jumbo-sized snacks and artificial flavors, Florida blueberries stand proud, bursting with antioxidants and ready to tackle hunger, one delectable bite at a time. From muffins to smoothies or straight out of the carton, they are the tiny titans of taste, delivering freshness as bold as they are blue, proving once again that good things come in small packages. To see what Florida blueberries can do for you, visit freshfromflorida.com today.
When you need the plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to wait?
Hey guys, we really need you over here. My toddler just flushed a whole bunch of toys down the toilet, and everything, and I mean everything, is backing up.
2 hours?
Hey guys, just checking in. The water has reached the hallway now, and it's getting pretty deep. Can you get here anytime soon?
4 hours?
Hey guys, can you please hurry? Now my wiener dog is doing the backstroke over here, and they're not known to be strong swimmers. Hey honey, grab his life jacket.
8 hours?
Oh,
So now you're here.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. Our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. And now M&L Plumbing can also be your go-to for all septic tank pump-out services. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing. Your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or online at mnlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
Do you own a small business? Let me guess. You started your business so you could get bogged down with payroll and bookkeeping, office tasks, and other paperwork, right? Probably not. I'm Craig Collins with Collins Income Tax Solutions. Allow me to help you get out from behind your desk and get back to doing what you love. For any of your payroll, bookkeeping, or other business services, give me a call today and allow me to take it off your plate. You can find my contact information online at collinsincometexsolutionsllc.com.
Science-backed, technology tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Rolling on Big River. That was fun. I do think it'll be interesting to see coverage next year because the draft analysts employed by whether it be a website and or a television network have a keen interest in the storylines that they can either create or follow that they know are of interest to viewers and readers, as opposed to a scout or a GM or a coach that actually is spending a lot of their resources on trying to figure out if this is somebody that can make us better and or, keep me employed. There's a gulf between the goals there. And I think this is the first time the chasm was that large.
Yeah, and I think that there was also a retribution from the NFL community. And I do think that word is apt because the media firestorm of dad impacts your choice there. It's the noise and the distractions. Yeah. If Dion was not his father and he was just a Colorado quarterback, he might get taken in the third round.
Maybe.
I think it adds to it. It doesn't make him a starter.
It didn't help. Yeah.
No, it doesn't make him a starting quarterback. It's just, I think at that point, they're like, oh.
Also, quarterback's unique.
Yeah.
Because if you don't need a quarterback, like really good teams don't usually need a quarterback. So you're eliminating teams right off the bat that don't need one. Really good teams do need offensive linemen. You're always going to be picking them. Really good teams do need defensive linemen. Really good teams really need safety, every other position. Really good teams aren't usually in the market for a quarterback, or they wouldn't be really good. So it changes the math, and that's another reason guys can free fall. We've seen plenty of people free fall. Like if you fall past a certain point, then it's like, oh, he's in trouble because the next 16 teams don't need a quarterback.
This is a little more than a free fall.
Oh,
whatever the hell this was.
Well, Irashfel, Warchant.com, my man, does analysis evaluating the final toll from FSU's spring transfer departures. You can find that article on warchant.com. You can find his conversation with Hinshaw's house. That also is really good. Just so much, a bevy of stuff from Ira this weekend. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. All right, so where do we want to go post spring? You want to reference the evaluation? You want to look at what they've lost, what they're bringing in, anything that surprises you, any areas of concern now that we kind of know, as you pointed out, who's going to be playing for Florida State come the fall?
Yeah, we're getting closer to that. I think the main reason I want to do the piece, just kind of looking at who they lost, is, listen, a lot of people, don't follow a lot of this closely. A lot of people are FSU fans, but they're maybe not necessarily living and dying with the depth chart in the off season. And so when you see a bunch of guys leaving, you start wondering, man, why is everybody leaving? And I think that, if you go back and look at it, they had 10 players leave in this portal window. And, there's probably one or two that, you'd like to keep, but I don't know if you'd fight real hard to keep. And I think that's where they were at. I think Hakeem Williams is probably the one that, listen, he's been in the system 2 or 3 years. he still has some upside. Maybe it'll turn around for him, and you'd like it to be in this program. But if it's to a situation where he wants a certain amount to stay, then maybe that's not worth it to you. And then, really maybe Jalen early on the offensive line started some games last year, was not great, but he's only been in the system for 2 or 3 years. So maybe, if he has a chance to be a better player down the road. But a lot of those guys really, honestly, are kind of creating cap space for them to bring in new players. And so I just thought it was good to kind of capitalize to bring it all together. And then now here we are. They've got 2 kids who've transferred in, including one from FSU, which I know you're fired up about.
I am fired up about that. Yes.
And then, they've got a bunch of other guys coming in for visits or that they're talking to. So, we're getting close to knowing what this roster is going to look like.
So are you surprised? Look, I just got done singing the praises in hour 1 of the young man from Houston that they got. I think you have to separate the analysis of that, right? Is this a good get based on the quality of play he's produced in big-time college football? And also, is it a disappointment that they're still having to go out and get portal corners? I think both can be true. Like, I think it's a good get. I think it looks like a guy who has a real chance to be a plug-and-play guy who's been very productive, so that matches the model of guys that they're now going after in the portal. At the same time, you can think that it reflects poorly on what they have here at corner, which would mean another recruiting miss.
Or, no, I don't know if I would say go that far, just because I would say a lot of those guys are still really young, and now they're switching systems. You've got a lot of second-year guys and a few third-year guys who really have not played a ton of football, and now you switch from a press man team to a team that's going to be a lot more multiple, play a lot more zone. And so I don't think they knew what they had going, with those guys under this coaching staff in the spring. I'll give them credit for recognizing where they needed help and going and addressing it quickly and getting maybe the best corner that was available. So I think it's more of a positive. I don't know that even at the end of last season, as excited as a lot of us are about those young corners, that anybody knew for sure that they would be great in the spring, even if it was the old system. But now you change things up. So I wouldn't say I don't know that I would say there's a bunch of those guys in that DB room that are misses. Maybe they're just not ready yet. And, they don't want to take that chance.
All right. I like that. Where else are they going to look, do you think?
Well, definitely defensive line / defensive end. And again, I think that's probably, especially the way they're playing with their defensive line and guys moving around. I don't know that they're locked into 1 or 2 ends or 1 or 2 tackles or one of each or how it's going to play out, but they're definitely talking to some tackles and some ends. It seems like maybe a little bit more on the edge side. So that's definitely one. I think they're interested in safety possibly. I think there's a potential there. In fact, we'll have a couple of things coming up on the website looking at some of the options at those positions. And then offensive line, I think, pretty much the positions I think most of us thought that they needed to look at, they agree with. The only thing that's kind of been a curveball is, I think, to your point, I don't know that a lot of people thought corner was a need, but we weren't there at practice. They were, and, there was a really good corner out there, so they jumped on it.
I thought it was interesting. I think I saw where it looks like Florida State actually did reach out. I don't know how serious they are, but I thought it was kind of eye-opening. I think it's the Ole Miss tight end. Would that surprise you? That would surprise me.
Yeah, it depends on how much space they have, and I think that's kind of the challenge with all this right now is we don't know exactly what the numbers are going to be because the House settlement's not done. And one of the things that came up recently is the judge in that case said, she may force you to go with the scholarship numbers, or not scholarship numbers, the roster sizes that were in place before, which was a lot more than 105. FSU's been operating under the idea that they only have 105 spots. Well, now they may have more than that. So I think a lot of schools now are trying to figure out exactly, okay, how many spots do we really have? And, what do we want to do with those? And then, you make those decisions. So I don't think they've got a ton more spots open. I think it's just a handful, unless they feel like they're going to have well over 105 players. And if they do, then maybe you look at other positions too.
Bring in 165.
Like Bear Bryant.
Dominate the day. Have just a sea of bodies to throw at the issue, of which there have been too many. Make anything of the baseball team getting their head kicked in the final 2 games of that series?
Didn't love it. But I mean that's where they are, man. If their starters are not great, this Penn's just not going to get it done. It doesn't seem like. I think we've talked about it for the last few weeks now. The losses that they had. The two of their top relievers that they really thought they were counting upon are not really available, and that was not going to be the strength necessarily of this team anyway. So I just think the most disappointing thing to me is that the offense didn't do much more because you just can't. You're not going to win baseball games at a high level scoring a couple runs, and so that's to me, and that's something that they have the material to do better. It's amazing how that series just flipped on a dime.
Crazy.
Midway through the second game, you're thinking they may win 2 or 3 out here, and then the last 2 they end up getting embarrassed. So it's concerning, I would say, but I don't know if it's anything shocking.
Right. I don't know if it portends of a bitter disappointment this weekend. I don't know if it means that they won't go on to make it to Omaha. I just know in my mind, if I'm assessing all of those weaknesses coupled with those strengths, they're not going to win the College World Series. Now, only one team does, but, last year you thought going into the postseason, they had a legit chance, and they did. This doesn't feel like that, does it?
It does not. No, it doesn't feel like that. But, man, if you could get out there again,
yeah,
amazing. I do think in a shorter series, if one of your starters is Jamie Arnold,
right,
you feel good about that. And Joe Vellini pitched pretty well, but for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's not as deep a team, and the offense is clearly not as explosive, especially against frontline pitching. But the one thing I would say is, to your point about what does it say about this weekend coming up, at least we know that this team is resilient. I mean, they had about as bad a week as you could have a few weeks ago, and then came out of it great. So, we'll see what they do. But yeah, in terms of overall depth of talent, with what they've lost, they're just not as dominant as they were a year ago.
Always appreciate it, my brother. We've got the smash tonight, right?
Yep, I think so.
All right. Sounds good, brother. I'll see you then. Later. IrishFL, Warchant.com. We're up against it. Fired up news. Here we come.
Your local news now.
A Quincy man is dead after an early Sunday morning shooting. 34-year-old Dominique Sanchez Green was shot in a car in the parking lot at Crawford and Monroe Street around 2 a.m. Sunday. Police described the incident as an after-party with a large gathering of people. Chief Carlos Hill said no one is in custody and no suspect information is available at this time. A Madison County deputy is on administrative leave after shooting a 24-year-old armed man early Sunday morning around 1 a.m. The incident unfolded after a large gathering of people were having a block party on Main Street in Greenville. Deputies and FHP were already at the scene when gunshots rang out. Deputies ran toward the direction of the gunfire and saw a man with a handgun running behind a parked car. The deputy gave the man multiple commands to drop his weapon before firing one shot. The man was taken to the hospital and he is in stable condition. The deputy involved is on administrative leave while the investigation takes place. This is Rachel Anay with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Frobley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A mix of clouds and sun this afternoon with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Highs around 91. Southeast winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight. Slight chance of thunderstorms. Lows level out around 67. Chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 86. A blend of clouds and sun. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 89.
Games for Less, Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachian Parkway. There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yeah,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape.
And,
I've never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Guys, quick question. This from A. Wright. Thank you, A. Wright. Do you think the NCAA's rule that once a player declares for the draft and signs with an agent, they're ineligible for college? Another antitrust violation, perhaps, is what he's suggesting there. NCAA has lost most antitrust cases. Yeah, but that it's fitting, given we were talking about the Quinn Ewers situation. It works for other people as well. But if you decide to sign with an agent and forego potentially millions of dollars in NIL money, and you've been projected and you've consulted with teams, perhaps let's say you can prove, and you could, that you were projected to go 4th round, 3rd round, whatever it might be, and you go 7th round and cost yourself multi-millions of dollars. I guess what you're suggesting is, could you prove that at that point you should not have lost your eligibility and you want to go back in and play college football and go get your NIL money?
You can do it in it's different in hockey, but you can. They'll often draft entry-level players at 18 years old. Now, there's no 3-year barrier to play in the NHL. You could do it right out of essentially high school. But they'll go back and play a couple years at Minnesota or Michigan or wherever, and then they'll make their way to your franchise. So there are other sports that have these allowances. You already did sign with an agent if you're the NFL prospect, because he's the one or she's the one that represents you with the NIL collective.
Probably.
So you likely already had representation. So that in and of itself shouldn't be a disqualifier. The NCAA is on quite the losing streak in the courts. You could give it a shot.
Taking a beating.
I mean, Ewers could give it a shot. But he missed the portal deadline, I guess. That would be the one problem.
I don't know that he can give it a shot. Speaking of shot, apparently he and his dad have killed everything that's ever walked or breathed on this earth at some point, given the room he was sitting in.
I didn't see that.
Clown show. But yeah, I mean, it was, it's interesting to look at. You're right, A-Right, because the NCAA has lost these cases over and over again lately. And you're just like, well, why not challenge the NCAA? They come to court, they lose, they go home. That's what happens these days with the NCAA and the courts. One loss after the next. So
I'm not saying 7th round was predictable for Ewers, but I'm sure the draft grade he got had them at least doing a cost-benefit analysis of returning to college for one more year.
Well, you go back, that article came out, it was, I think, 2 different quotes under the condition of anonymity, obviously, but they both said that they had heard, and I posted this because I was at the time kind of flummoxed. Nothing really flummoxes me anymore regarding NIL, money, transfers, any of that stuff. But at that moment, it was whispered that while in the middle of the season, while at Texas, Notre Dame had reached out, tampered, talked to him, and said, there might be $7 million waiting on you here at Notre Dame.
$7 million.
$7 million.
Ridiculous.
And everybody went, what? And at the time, I posted that. So did others. But that was the story that came out. And some people pushed back at that time, saying, no way, can't be. And then I think it wasn't much longer, much later, that we learned that $4 and $5 million was being offered for what's-his-face at Georgia. So it was happening left and right. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, no, that money's there. That's real. You can get it.
Okay, today's second collection is for Quinn Ewers and student mass here. Let's make sure that we put an extra $20 in there, second collection. Yes, that is Jim Phillips that is presiding.
He's there at Notre Dame doing the...
I mean, he has, it makes total sense that he worked there. He has the perfect Midwestern Catholic voice.
Yeah, it would work. It would work. But yeah, he has got to be like, damn it, man. Whoever his agent was like, no, you got to take him to the draft.
That's what I'm saying.
Buddy.
They knew he was a mid-level, mid-tier draft pick anyway, which is less money. You might get more guaranteed
Yeah,
But-
it does show you too, Tom, and it's a good, healthy reminder for people that forget about this. But you can be a really good college quarterback and have very little prospects in the way of the NFL. And I remember somebody getting really angry at me when I said that even with the vast improvements of Jordan Travis, I didn't think he was an elite draft choice and wasn't going to be drafted in the first few rounds. The person got mad. I said, listen, I'm a Knoll just like everybody else. I want Jordan to do great. But Jordan's a good example of what teams think of you when you have holes in your game or something's lacking. Guess where he went, everybody? 5th round. Same place Shedeur Sanders went.
Yeah.
So that's like if you're a backup who needs a lot of work.
Snapping his leg like a twig didn't help.
Didn't help. But the point is they knew he would have been drafted somewhere in that area too.
For sure. Yeah.
The thing of it is that and that is from a kid who hit home runs in the interview process. That's the guy that probably elevated his stature from 6th round to 5th round, even with the broken leg, because of the interviews. They knew that you were getting a pro's pro who was going to take it all in and work his ass off and be a great example of what it takes to be a pro. They knew that just from talking to him.
There's a healthy level of defiance to his character, and that's something that you want. In a backup quarterback, you need that. You got to have that. And he's also lightning in a bottle if he's healthy. But then, apparently the Jets botched the rehab process. So
I think that was always going to be a pretty complicated thing. I don't want to get into discussing his medical, but that didn't sound good from first surgery on. That was a bad break. He got really unlucky. Really unlucky. It sucks. That's why I'm glad NIL existed. He got paid a lot of money. And I'm glad it did. It worked out for a kid who drew the right kind of attention to the university, won a ton of games, was rewarded for it with real cold, hard cash. He did well for himself. And that's a case where you say, oh, the system worked. Good kid, persevered, worked hard, got better, got paid.
We got a lot of those. That's the one bright spot from all the portal entries, and the kids we took. A lot of good stories. Jared Verse, amazing story.
Amazing story.
Jermaine Johnson, and so forth. It goes down the line.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. So, anyhow, we shall see with him. I look today. He is still working hard, but I don't know. Final hour, fourth coming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 844-464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the battle's end. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653. Hey, Knoll fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hey, everybody, this is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry now for 22 years. I just made the move over to the nation's largest retail lender, Cross Country Mortgage, here to serve you in 7 states, including Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and the state of Texas. Here to offer better service, better rates, and if you were thinking about buying or if you've been on the fence and been waiting to call me, now is the time. You can still find me at loansforknolls.com. That is, again, loansforknolls.com. I've helped thousands of fellow Knolls get into their dream home, and I can't wait to help you get into yours. Give me a call today. I'm at 954-369-6171, or go to loansforknolls.com. Again, that's 954-369-6171, and that's loansforknolls.com.
Equal housing, NMLS 373031.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
WVFD, Greta, Tallahassee. This is Real Talk 93.3. More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next. Your sports flash update on Real Talk 93.3 in Tallahassee.
NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars signing free agent Emmanuel Ogbah to a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. He's a 9-year veteran in the league. He spent the last 5 seasons with the Miami Dolphins, has 47.5 sacks and 112 quarterback hits in 123 career games. He was drafted in the second round by the Cleveland Browns in 2016. The Orlando Magic in Boston Tuesday night for Game 5 of their playoff series with the Celtics. Sunday, the Magic lost Game 4, 107-98, and now trail 3-1, now facing elimination. Paulo Banchero, 31 points. If the Magic can force a Game 6, it'll be Thursday night back in Orlando. NASCAR Austin Cindric won at Talladega Sunday, capturing the Jack Links 500. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, Real Talk 93.3.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 biggie bag with a junior bacon cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, junior hot and crispy fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
A limited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California and via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yeah, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Did you know backup generators often lack the power needed to start an AC unit? Installing an Easy Flex soft starter from E&B Heating and Air can reduce startup current by 75%, allowing your AC to run without a larger, more expensive generator. Visit EMBHeatingandAir.com for more info.
Porterman, you're walking crooked again. What happened to you?
Well, I was sitting at the boat ramp sipping on a margarita when my alligator Hank decided we needed to go water skiing.
Oh, no.
Next thing you know, Hank's strapped to 4 skis and I'm hanging on his back and the boat is pulling us out. It was all going great till Hank spotted a duck in the lily pads and wanted to jump the wake.
Porterman, you're crazy. No wonder you got hurt.
Yep, 1 second it's air, water, air, then bam, now I can't even bend over to put on my own water skis.
Well, Porterman, you better get over to Thin Chiropractic right now. You can book an appointment online and take advantage of the new patient special.
Special offer online? That's easier than wrestling an airboat off a sandbar.
That's right. Just go to thinchiro.com. FENNCHIRO.com. FENNCHIRO.com.
That's it. I'm headed over there boogity to get straightened out.
Whatever you're driving right now, remember it doesn't cost much more to go first class because you can lease either of Infinity's popular luxury SUVs, the QX50 or the QX60 for around $600 a month with less due at signing than you might think. Only at Infinity of Tallahassee.
Gather around Tallahassee. It's time to fire up the grill and make some unforgettable family memories, courtesy of Hearth and Patio. Whether it's juicy steaks, succulent burgers, or those special family recipe ribs, they've got the grills that will make your backyard the hottest spot in town. From gas to charcoal, they have the perfect grill for every meat lover's dream. Call Hearth and Patio today, where the quality of your cookout is their passion. Give them a call today, 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282, or online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a lawn work that I ignored. It was staring at me yesterday, Tom, right in the face. And I said, look here, man. It's 105 degrees out here in April, which is criminal. I'm not doing it. So I ignored it, which means it'll get done probably today or tomorrow. And I don't look forward to that. I've really taken these 3 hours today together with this show as being my bastion, my sanctuary, my safe place. Because when I get home, I have to mow, and I don't want to mow. It shouldn't be this hot in April. I'm just bitching for a second.
Could you do it early morning tomorrow?
I could. I don't know. We'll see.
What's the etiquette? 8 a.m. on a weekday?
Yeah, probably. I don't know what the rules are. I always err on the side of caution when it comes to mowing. I don't want to, I don't want to be that guy. Just because I get up early doesn't mean my neighbor has to get up early, although he does. I could get away with it. I know all of my neighbors get up early. But it doesn't mean that the people back around the corner do or whatever else. So you know how it goes.
I'll never forget it at the house over on the east side of town. My goodness. The guy on Sundays. I think he did it to leave the home. So
he thought it was funny.
He didn't have to hear his wife, I'm assuming, because there wasn't lawn to mow. But he would ride that thing for 3/4 of an NFL game. So you want to sit on the back deck? You're like, your first 3/4 are shot. That was most annoying.
Well, I'll wait till the sun's about to go down and maybe make a go of it today. I got some things to do after work, and then we'll wait till like 7-ish, somewhere in there, and give it a go. Come in, shower, go to bed. Well, I can't do that because the lightning are on. Ooh, big one tonight, buddy. Big one tonight. We shall see. Looking forward to it. Obviously, we recapped the draft. We talked about Florida State's situation, both on the diamond and overall from a roster standpoint. Took a look at perhaps what the draft could tell us with the 257 players taken, 150 of those being either SEC or Big Ten. We can't get out of here soon enough, buddy. Can't get out of here soon enough. Got to go get access to the money that allows for you to outbid.
Feels like purgatory in a lot of levels for Florida State football.
I see a mention in there about the golf team. Yeah, would have been nice. Clanton wins the last 3 holes to stave off a loss. And, we lose.
It was highly entertaining. The whole product, because Clemson in the other semifinal was right down to the wire. It wasn't great television because they don't spend the money on it. But that was some good golf right there.
Yeah, probably much better than the team golf that was going on at the Zurich, which I've decided I can't watch. I want a little pizza money on that. Not a lot. It's just not fun.
Did you watch the Chevron instead?
I really didn't. This is a weekend I took away. I didn't watch the golf.
Took a break from golf.
You'll
be back for the Byron Nelson this week?
I will be. Oh, I'm back on board once we have real golf going on. None of this team nonsense. Let's go. Let's play some real golf. I'm looking forward to it. And, winning some more money on it. I watched baseball this weekend. I watched Florida State baseball this weekend. I watched a ton of the draft this weekend. I watched the NBA playoffs this weekend. I watched several of the playoff hockey games as well. So it was one after the next.
This is the time. It somehow, even though you get to the second round and there's enough television to go around for both the NBA and the Stanley Cup playoffs, it feels so much lighter. It's depressing, even in the second round. Now, that's the best round. Typically, you get the best matchups outside of the finals in each sport. But when you have like 4 games going on at any given moment in the playoffs, and then you could choose from the best MLB game in the moment, or Florida State softball or baseball, and then the golf. Yes, this is when if you have multiple TVs, you use them, and you break out the iPad.
I did. I broke out the iPad. I broke out the other television. My television is finally going to be fixed today.
Oh, it
still hasn't
really?
been. They had to ship the part in. This is what happens. I forgot. Did I tell the audience?
I don't think you did.
My monster went south on me when I was out of town week before.
Yeah, it's been
3
3 weeks now.
Well, no. It's been like 10 days, 12 days, something like that. It's too long is what it is. And so I wanted to blame my father, but he didn't do anything wrong. But, when things don't go the way you want them to, you want somebody to be able to cast blame upon. So we left town it wasn't last week, it was the week before, on Wednesday or whatever that was, when I took the family over. We saw Isabel at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. And that was on a Wednesday night. We came back on a Thursday, whatever that was. So we get back, and my dad came into town, very kindly watched my dogs, Mike and Annie, while we were away, so we didn't have to put them up in a kennel or anything like that. And all of a sudden, I walk in, he goes, "Oh, hey, everything went great." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Thanks, Dad, so much. Really appreciate you coming down and helping out for us." And he's like, "Yeah, one problem. TV's not working." Of course, what are we talking about? Your TV's not working. And this is the monster.
Yeah, initially you would think, at least I would, technology issue on the person's part. Like,
because my dad is in his 70s, and
Right.
it is fair to assume anybody in their 70s is clueless.
It's on the wrong input. I just got to switch the input. And we're
Right.
fine.
It's just a source issue. He doesn't know. Old people they struggle with remotes. They struggle operating a camera, let alone trying to flip a channel. They don't know. They don't understand apps. He's probably somehow clicked on some button that has him surfing the internet. He doesn't know what he's doing here. So I kind of poo-pooed it. I was like, "That's all right, Dad. Thanks for helping out. I'm sure it's nothing." He's like, "I don't know. I tried everything." I'm like, "I probably just made it worse, Dad. You didn't. You're just hitting a bunch of buttons." And I'm like, "You're just randomly hitting buttons. You don't know."
It's now in Dutch with all the inputs.
Yeah. And so he's like, no, it sounded kind of like made a noise and then just stopped working. And that was the first moment where I went, "Ooh, I don't like the sound of that." "What do you mean it made noise?" He's like, "That's just kind of a popping sound. And then it just stopped working." I'm like, okay. And then anyhow, I'll fast forward here. The 87-incher is on the kaputs. It's just on the fritz. It's not working. It doesn't draw power. Nothing. Guy comes in and says, "Look, it's worth it for you to fix it. It's probably just the power source. I can get it shipped in. We'll do that." And then it happens.
I like that compound word.
Yeah, you like that?
Instead of it's on the fritz or it's kaput. I like that it's on the kaputs.
It's on the kaputs.
I like that.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening was the guy says, "I got to order the part. The bad sign is that it's going to take 7 to 10 days for that part to come in, and then I can replace it." In modern televisions, they burn so bright, they just tell you to buy a new one when they burn up. But this is only going to cost a couple $100, and I don't feel like spending another $2,000, although I got to be honest with you guys. I was secretly hoping it was broken. I don't want to tell anybody that. But I kind of deep down.
Except the thousands and thousands of people you just told.
Deep down, I didn't want to tell my family this. I wanted the guy that I contacted about fixing it to tell me that it was going to cost thousands, or at least 1,000. Because then I could have justified driving my ass over to Costco and buying a 100+ inch television that I saw last week and that I want to purchase. And I was going to do it that afternoon. I wanted him just tell me, just say it's $800. Say it's around $700. Then I can just say, "Well, we had to buy a new one."
Say it's $400.
Just say it, yeah.
Say it's $125.
If he said, "I can fix it, I'll be there in an hour," it's okay. I understand. "No, but I said I could fix it." "I understand. It's impossible." "Gotcha." No, sir, I'm telling you, I could come fix your television right now." No, it was due. It was due. It happens. Don't worry about it. Thanks for all your help. Then I would have hung up and gone, "He says it can't be fixed." I did. I was going to go over there and purchase that, and then it didn't happen. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So now this is the day, apparently, he's coming out to the house to fix it. So it's like Christmas because I get to watch the Lightning tonight against the Panthers at 7:00 with the
oh, that's nice.
Yes.
And it's amazing how much larger the television looks when you pivot to a secondary television, even for a day.
Effing postage stamp of a 57-inch television. It's nonsense. I switched to that television that I had all those years ago that's now in the back that my wife hates that I have in our bedroom, and I brought it out to the TV room. I go, look at this tiny piece of crap. And she said, it's 50-something inches. What's wrong with you? I'm like, it's tiny. You can't even see it. This is freaking believable. I'm sitting there watching this. She goes, you sound like the biggest spoiler. I'm like, damn it, man. I've invested. I watch sports for a living. I want to be able to see it crystal clear. Massive.
So we're going to set the over-under on the 100-incher for 89.5 days. I think you're going to have it in time for football season. That's my guess.
The 100-inch?
Yep. I think you're going to do it.
I can't find a place to store the 87-incher.
Right next to the 100-inch.
I can't do it. But I had the draft on this weekend, and I was watching all the moments of mental breakdowns from Mel Kiper when Shedeur would drop again. And I had that one on the smaller television, and then I had the iPad out and the laptop out. And I was like, okay, I got 3 things going here. I got a little playoff basketball later on. It was Florida State baseball, and I had switched over to the hockey. I had it all going. That'll be all the more in hand. This is a great time of year, man. You are set. You got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball in full swing. Watch your Mets blow a 6-run lead yesterday. That was crazy.
I did watch that.
I did too. I was like, what is going on here?
Glad you saw it.
Well, you guys have won every game you played this year. Who cares? It was a weird choke. That was like back-to-back, I think, too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Friday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Mirrored very, very similarly. Yes.
Won that Saturday one. That was the important one, Tommy.
Yeah, sure did. 2-0. Sweated that one for about 5 minutes. And it was all okay. Yeah.
So it is. Back to one thing I will say. We were talking about the assessment of Florida State, what they are, what they're not. You know, I think now you realize with Mendez, you're just, damn it, man. We did not need any injuries, and it happened. You know when we lost what's his name on Crest, Evan Crest. When we lost him on Tuesdays, it really kind of threw things for a loop.
Yeah, because then you could pair. I mean, you think about it, in a lesser important series, you could have Mendez Crest Sunday together. Or Crest could have just overtaken Mendez for the Sunday job, and now Mendez is available on another night in the weekend. But Abraham, Mendez, Crest comprise some long man / Sunday starter role that allows you to slot guys to days, and then maybe the dominoes fall the right way from there. But right now it's a bit of a mess. And this weekend series against Clemson is going to tell you a lot about what they think they're going to be moving forward in terms of score situation, first guy up in the pen on Friday, same thing Saturday. They have no midweek game where they have to worry about overextending guys 30, 40 pitches. You got no such thing this week because of exams. So you're going to get a clean look at what Link and Posey think about this staff, top to bottom, in a series that you got to have. You got to have 2 out of 3 in this series. Or if you don't, you're staring at borderline top 16 national seed at that point. If you get to 2 out of 3, you're back in that discussion about top 16, top 8 seed.
Here's the good news, and I want to remind, we've had a lot of big picture discussions about what this Florida State baseball team is, and certainly by way of comparison to last year's team that was one of the Final Four standing elite offensive firepower. You do have to remember, as you watch a program build back to the annual, I think, certainly threat to be a team that plays out in Omaha. When you're getting back to what you once were for a long time in the sport. And you have to remind yourself of how quickly that happened. That Link takes over a tough situation 2 years ago. They have a really rough season and a devastatingly bad season. But again, that's inherited. And then the following year, they're back in Omaha and they're dominating games and they're once again elite. And you're excited, you're reminded. It's like seeing a long-lost friend. The consistency, we were all very spoiled for a very long time. Obviously, the search for that elusive national title still exists, and that's what we're waiting for, the cherry on top of all that success. I got it, but it was nice to thrust yourself back into the nation's elite, to make up that fabric of the sport again as a principal player in college baseball. And you became that last year. And just because this team, after having lost a ton from that team, offensively in particular, just because this team isn't that team doesn't mean you still ought not be really happy with where you're at. This team may not be, certainly I don't think it is, as good as last year's team, but they're a good team. They're a really good team. And I think they're just going to continue to add pieces. And there is an excitement about the future for a lot of these young players that have produced already or showing glimpses that they will produce. I think he's just going to keep adding to that. The question is, how much can you get out of this team? You're now back to mattering every single year and will assess accordingly, as opposed to wishfully thinking that they can compete and be a team that's in the postseason. You will assume that they are going to be a postseason team. It's a matter to what degree are they in contention to go back to Omaha and or win a national title.
Yeah, last year went from 0 to 60 in an instant.
Yeah.
And it got the expectations ratcheted up so fast that you felt like regionals and super regional weekends were don't blow it territory. That's how you felt about watching Florida State baseball. Like, don't blow this.
Yeah, right.
You should be going to Omaha. Whereas with this group, I feel like, again, if you're thin on the pitching side, regionals, you're more susceptible to big problems. Because if you drop that Friday game, you're done. Or even if you drop the winners bracket on Saturday, you're likely
you're in trouble.
Make
you're in trouble, yeah.
So if this team advances to a super regional, that is going to be an accomplishment, not a don't choke situation. It's like you're going to earn it. And if they advance to Omaha, my God, that's a hell of an accomplishment, because over the course of those 2 weekends, you're going to be tested top to bottom. You're just going to have to hope that your bullpen catches fire. And that's the good 50-50 of the equation, as you land on those 2 particular weekends. Because then if you get out there and Jamie's starting game 1 for you, once you're in the winner's bracket, man, that changes the narrative completely. It's all about, once you get there, winning the first game. If you do, it gets real fun real fast. But it's to earn it, to get out there, would feel completely different. Last year it was, yeah, we should be out there. This year, if they get to Omaha, it'll be like, that's a hell of an accomplishment. Way to go.
Well, and that's what I used to argue about all the time. What happened with Mike Martin was he was so successful annually that they grouped all of the times in which they lost in Omaha together as being the same thing. And there were teams that had no business going to Omaha, that were seriously lacking in areas, and got back out there to Omaha. And those should have been years that we were like, wow, didn't see that coming. Good for them. They've overachieved. There were also years that they should have been in a position to win the whole thing, were loaded from top to bottom, and choked. That exists too. But those are 2 very different scenarios. Just like I think this is a different scenario. This team is good. They're not as good as last year's team. Last year's team realized their capability. They lost twice to the eventual national champions, and they were in it both times, right there, and really choked one of those games away, if you want to call it that. Some costly mistakes. Let's put it that way.
And a check you do.
Yeah. So there's that. But I want to watch what I think should be in place for Florida State. And I think Link believes this, and I think that the way he's constructed this will guarantee that we're pretty much going to be in this mindset every year now. And that is, I want to be in contention. I want to know at the start of any given year, we've got a very good team. And then I want to argue to varying degrees of nuance as to how good. That's what I want to do. I want to say, oh, well, they're good. They're missing this. I wish they had more left-handed power. I wish they had, maybe they don't pick it as well. Maybe they do. Maybe they're really good defensively. I mean, this team turns more double plays than anybody in the conference by a lot. They're awesome. Defensively up the middle, not good behind the plate. Really good in the outfield in terms of range. And so we know what they are.
Yeah, it's funny how quickly those conversations can happen, because last year it reminded me of Dalvin Cook's meteoric rise from, oh man, this guy really bailed us out of the Louisville game, to, oh, is he the best player on the roster?
Best player on the team,
including Jameis?
Yeah, he became a freak.
Well, the Miami game, he saved our bacon as well. And by that point, you're going, oh man, this might be the best guy that we've ever had. Like, I remember that first segment we did, said, is he getting, just for your eyes, work done territory? Because you watch work as a student here. You're like, yes. He's
I remember
better.
feeling bad. I remember thinking, I'm going to have to just say it. I think he's a better player. Right. And I didn't want to say it.
Last year's lineup, the pitching still had a couple questions going into regional, super regionals, but that lineup was so lethal. You're like, it shouldn't matter.
They're going to club.
They should club their way to this thing. I remember it was earlier. It was probably early April last year that we're like, is this one of the all-time lineups?
Well, I got
Florida State
scared
history?
because I began to realize they could win the College World Series.
Right.
Like, it's within your grasp to win the whole thing. I will maintain that they had a very good chance if they don't blow the lead and if the check swing is called strike 3 against Tennessee. If they win that game,
they would right there.
I think that they had a really good chance to win the College World Series. Ooh, that hurt so bad. And we were doing a damn watch along.
Yes, we were.
I'm sure some of the words I used were.
It was immediately pulled down for all of us. That was for all of us. But those who enjoyed it, it's still a thing of legend. People still in the chat are like, are we ever going to get a baseball watch along again? That was awesome. Like, well, it was a fun ride, but it wasn't awesome. I don't look back on that and saying that was
well,
awesome.
I think it might have been fun for if you're just entertained by commentary of a game, but yeah, I mean,
just the result,
Oh, and we
colors of the
can
experience.
feel it. You can feel it happening. I
Yeah.
could sense it. You could too. Oh, here it comes. Here we go.
He just wanted an atom ball, that's
Just
what you
please
wanted.
hit it right at somebody. Yes.
But he went, and that's the hateful thing, the hurtful thing.
Sucks. Great rates through July for all Florida residents. My friends are at it again. They've never really gone away. They've stayed at it. Above and Beyond VR. AboveandBeyondVR.com. That's where you want to go. That's the vacation rentals, of course. That's Above and Beyond, my friends, Florida State folks, and anybody else for that matter listening. Don't stay landlocked. Whether you want a 3-story luxury condo like the one Tom and I stayed at on the water, you want something starts at, say, under $200 for Memorial Day weekend, they got that too.
Yep. Good rates through Memorial Day weekend.
Under $250 for the 4th of July. Woo. You're going to want to do it and use the promo code JCS. Great rates. You cut out the middleman. You're not paying the fees of the Airbnb and the VRBO.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple of locations the week leading up to Memorial Day, and those cottages on the beach.
I like the cottages.
$130 a night. That's crazy good.
Right on the beach. It's a beautiful thing.
$120 a night. Is it fair to say that Mel Kiper Jr. went above and beyond this weekend?
He just looked ridiculous.
Does he get the win?
Yeah, he'll be our Above and Beyond winner for the Above and Beyond Player of the Week, Person of the Week. I really believe wholeheartedly this was a day of an interesting conversation between him and his bosses. I think he's in trouble, Tom. I think he's on the ropes. It was unprofessional. He looked like a fool. He pissed off some pretty important people at the network, including both Mike Greenberg and Reese Davis.
He did do that, but I think they're going to wait for the ratings.
Well, the ratings are huge. The ratings are huge, but I think they would have been anyhow. That's
the argument that decides his fate.
That is.
There's social engagements through the roof for this. I'm sure there are YouTube clips. All of these shares of what Mel said turns him into what he was 30 years ago, which is the Stephen A of the NFL draft. Before Stephen A, there was this loud a-hole that was bombastic and cantankerous and combative. And then he turned into Grandpa Mel for a little bit. This was kind of an old school performance.
Well, this one hurt his feelings because he looked like a fool. And I don't mean because of the antics where he did, have a temper tantrum. And I said it before that I thought he looked like a man who was personally more affected by Shedeur Sanders dropping to the 5th round than Shedeur was. It sure seemed that way to me. And he was obsessed. Like, even when, that's the other part about this that I think they have to wonder, like, are you all there? Because, and I think it directly has to do with him knowing that he was losing credibility because he had him as his number 2 quarterback on the board. And so when that happened and he starts dropping, and he made it a point, I think, and the exact quote here was, I've never seen this in 47 years, have one of my top 3 quarterbacks on the board drop this far. Well, that's personal. Now it's gotten personal for you.
Well, and he was number 1 best available on the big board for 41 hours, I think.
Yeah, so he felt embarrassed by his assessment. Now, his assessment is not the assessment of NFL scouts and GMs who clearly had him as a 3rd, 4th round guy who dropped further than the 3rd or 4th round because he was an idiot in the interviews. So he went from never going to be a 1st or 2nd rounder to maybe a third rounder as a backup quarterback who then interviewed his way out of that position. And for all the reasons we already talked about. But look, I mean.
Yeah, the breakdown was the breakdown. It's the moment when you gasp, that he says, well, the NFL has never gotten quarterback evaluations right. They don't know what they're doing.
It was weird. I'm like, oh, buddy, you're the same guy that told me you'd quit doing the job if Jimmy Clausen wasn't a stud.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't walk away. I mean, look, there's a lot that goes into analyzing what is going to make a good quarterback at the next level, and we have hits and misses throughout the history of the NFL. This isn't any more unique than any other player at the position, except for that he was not considered by most teams to be a top 2-round pick. He was to Mel. And Mel's feelings got hurt. And as it went on, he got more and more absurd. It's like the grandpa at the dinner table making an unreasonable argument and then he just keeps doubling down in the wake of overwhelming evidence that he's wrong.
Right. Gets louder. If I get louder, I'll be right.
But you're like, Grandpa, you're wrong. First of all, the premise is wrong. Let me explain why. And then you say it. Then he's like, oh, no, that doesn't mean you're right just because you say, oh, no. You don't want to hear what I'm saying, but these are facts.
Yeah. That's Bureau of Labor Statistics, dog. Yeah. Sorry, grandfather.
But that was him.
Yeah, this is a situation where I think it would be tremendous if, let's say you're right and he's done.
I think he's in trouble.
And then let's say Shedeur actually is a good ball player.
He might be.
You see Mel on the first row in Cleveland. He's got a sweatshirt on. That's my guy.
But what's funny is I will say, just speaking about this pragmatically, and we got to go to break. I don't know what Cleveland's doing. I mean, clearly that was a favor to somebody, but I don't know what they're doing. Why would you take him there after you took Dylan Gabriel a round and a half before, who's a project? And your quarterback room is a ball of crap. It's just a bunch of nothing. It's awful. What are you doing?
Guaranteeing hard knocks. That's what you're doing.
Oh, man, you just got a bunch of dudes that can't play.
They really wanted their fans to be able to use the Spider-Man meme for Dylan and Shedeur.
How are they going to get him reps? When's he going to play? Hell, Flacco's on that roster. He's going to be by far and away the best quarterback they have there.
It's Deshaun, Flacco, and these two kids.
Well, there's 5 deep. They got who was it? What is the depth now?
Zippy? Who they got?
They got Dylan. They had Cho.
Do they still have Thompson Robinson? They still have
I would hope not. Right? Cleveland.
No, they have Kenny Pickett.
That's right. I knew it was somebody else. I couldn't remember.
So they've got Shedeur and Kenny Pickett. They got the same guy, according to Dan Jeremiah.
I mean, Kenny went in the first round, but yeah. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hey man, if you heard the bell, Calco Jewelry's the best in town. Rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. And Calco Jewelry.
When was the last time you randomly did something nice for someone that means a lot to you? Now, I say this every day at the end of my show for everybody to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Well, one way to do that is to drop into Pentalpha and get a gift for someone who deserves it. It'll brighten their day, their week, maybe even their year. You don't have to wait for a holiday or special occasion, so don't wait to go check out a true local gem serving Tallahassee since 1988. Now, sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalpha.
Hey everybody, this is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry now for 22 years. I just made the move over to the nation's largest retail lender, Cross Country Mortgage, here to serve you in 7 states, including Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and the state of Texas. Here to offer better service, better rates, and if you were thinking about buying or if you've been on the fence and been waiting to call me, now is the time. You can still find me at loansforknowles.com. That is, again, loansforknowles.com. for Knowles.com. I've helped thousands of fellow Knowles get into their dream home, and I can't wait to help you get into yours. Give me a call today. I'm at 954-369-6171, or go to loansforknowles.com. Again, that's 954-369-6171, and that's loansforknowles.com.
Equal housing NMLS 373031.
Here's an important COVID-19 announcement for businesses and schools. Has the COVID-19 pandemic stalled or disrupted your business or normal schedules? Has your revenue dropped drastically? Are your customers anxious about coming back in to shop? Well, we've got great news. Pulse Innovations has developed a thermal system with facial and temperature recognition that can end your troubles right now. Everyone knows that one of the fastest and most reliable ways to identify COVID and other viruses is to detect fever. Our new high-tech development can scan up to 20 people all at once from 10 feet away to provide an immediate reading of those that may have a temperature. The system can give your customers a peace of mind when coming into your business. Call us for free details and a free no-obligation demo. Call right now and get that peace of mind.
800-716-4665. 800-716-4665. 800-716-4665. That's 800-716-4665.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-743-8080. That's 1-800-743-8080. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-743-8080. That's 1-800-743-8080.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I don't know how once a day, I think we're up to once a day, we get an opportunity for the Jeff Cameron Show PR firm to step in here and say, I just don't know how it happens. Coaches, GMs, owners need to be above the fray to some degree. You need to be able to handle yourself in the wake of criticism. You need to be able to understand that sports talk radio is going to feature a lot of elements that you don't necessarily love. It's fans calling in to host sometimes and debating the virtue of this pick or that pick, or it's whether or not the coach made the right decision in week 2 on 3rd and 7. And if you worried yourself about that all the time, you really wouldn't be able to do the job. You'd find, as they like to say, if you worry about what the fans say, you'll be amongst them. And it's just one of those things that's kind of understood by most people that work within that industry. I don't mean the sports talk industry. I mean like professional sports. Coach knows that criticism comes with the territory. That's what fans love to do. The draft is very much that way, where why do you think there are so many debates and articles and immediate assessments of an entire draft within 24 hours of it ending? Even the people that are tasked with the responsibility of writing about the teams and giving grades hate to do it. How many times have you heard those people like, I hate this. I know this doesn't make a lot of sense. You can't really draft. You can't really grade a draft until you're 3 years down the road. Then you can look back and go, hey, this guy didn't pan out. This guy did. Did you use too much? Did you give away too much to move up? Or whatever it might have been. And we can all do that with the benefit of hindsight. We can go and we can pull it up and you can go, that's a toughie there. I see we could have had Josh Allen and we went with Des White. toughie. Turns out Josh is going to the Hall of Fame and is arguably the best quarterback in the league. Son of a... Got it wrong. Happens. All right? But that's also just not the way the game's played, because the guys who are paid handsomely to do this get it wrong as well. And so you almost just welcome it, because any of that kind of conversation means you have engaged, passionate fans, and you want that. And Norvell does a good job of understanding that. Always has. I remember having a conversation with him. He's like, there's just probably going to be a lot of things that you'll say on your show that I won't agree with, and plenty that I like, some that I hate, some that I think is funny. Feel free. You do you. Just be fair, and make sure if you ever have any questions about, any context or whatever it is, make sure you ask.
Did you say thanks for the permission to do my job?
No. I said, I will. I'll have an opinion every day. I'm sure many of them you would disagree with, but I hope you're not even listening, because why would you be? Like Nick Saban used to laugh about that all the time. He's like, I'm not reading message boards or listening to what Sports Talk hosts are saying or reading columns. That guy that's at the AL.com is not afraid.
That's right.
He'll rip your ass for wearing the wrong jacket.
That's correct. Although that usually means when coaches say that they do read things, or they do, at least with Nick, I think he read the papers, because at some points he would come in post-practice and have something prepared.
He'd be mad about the paper. Yeah. Well,
or as one of his underlings was telling him what somebody said.
I think the key here is that, and there's a reason I'm bringing this up, and I'm going to give you the example in a second. I think the key here is that, like, okay, look, the host of a radio show, or the man or woman who pins a column, okay, they're paid for their opinion. They're going to have to give one. Okay, that's what they do. All right, they're paid for that, and hopefully they do their due diligence. Hopefully they effort to get it right as best they can. But by definition, if you're offering up an opinion, it's not necessarily a fact. It's not something that is set in stone. That is you say, based on this information, I think this. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. You just try to present it fairly, passionately, entertainingly. But most people kind of get that, because it's like I've said before, I'm not a cook, but I've got an opinion about food when I eat at a restaurant. I'm not a film director. I got an opinion about films that I watch. I think everybody has an opinion about the president of the United States. They're never going to be a president. This is what happens, right? So we get it. So when you go on a show, if you're a coach or a player or a GM, first of all, you don't have to. You don't have to go on a show. And you certainly don't have to take abuse. If somebody starts abusing you, you can fire back, or you could just politely hang up, or whatever it might be. But to have an opinion, to be mad at somebody who had an opinion that wasn't necessarily an unfair opinion, is just dumb. You put yourself in a bad situation. So the Bills general manager, Brandon Beane, did a Monday morning radio appearance today and was pissed. And this is kind of funny, because you and I love looking at other radio shows and knowing like the makeup of how people work together and what's going on. So this is funny, because we had one with the Titans not long ago where a player came up and had a real problem with something that was said that probably crossed the line.
His name was Buck something.
Oh, we were laughing. I don't remember what. It was great. Anyhow, here you go. You're going to like this. It's a show called The Jeremy and Joe Show. It's in Buffalo. And Bills GM Brandon Beane was asked about the busyness of the draft weekend to start the interview.
That show's got a chance.
The Jeremy and Joe Show?
Yeah. That's not a silly...
No, it's just Jeremy and Joe.
Right.
Yeah. So the Jeremy and Joe show's on. I guess they're the morning Buffalo hosts. They have the GM on. They ask him about, just a pretty banal question, right? Just sort of, let's toss this softball over here to GM Brandon Beane and see what he does with it. And he says, he's asked about the busyness of the draft. He responds by saying that he was listening to the discussion that they were having on the Jeremy and Joe show just before he came on. Quote, Tom, sounds like 2018 all over again with you guys. And they said, excuse me? And he said, well, here you are. You were bitching back in 2018 about Josh Allen.
With a quote?
Mm-hmm. And now you guys are sitting here bitching that we don't have a receiver.
Oh, okay.
I'll have you know, we just scored 30 points in a row for our 8 straight games. A year ago, I get you guys asking why we didn't have receivers. Again, we scored 30 points in 8 straight games. I don't understand it. You saw us lead the league in points. when you had all the postseason, no one scored more points than the Buffalo Bills did last year, including the Super Bowl champions. And you saw us do it without Stephon Diggs. How is this group not better than last year's group? Our job is to score points and win games. Where do we need to get better? Defense. So we went out and did that. I get it. You have to do a show. You have to have something to bitch about always. But bitching about wide receiver is one of the dumbest things you could do. Now, I think it's funny. It's very succinct. It's very direct. It is addressing specifically a problem that he had with old Jeremy and Joe.
Yeah. Well, yes. What it tells you is he is an avid listener to Jeremy and Joe. I mean, he's citing things back from 7 years ago. So he's a P1, as we say in the industry. The GM of the team is a P1 listener to the local Buffalo Bills radio program. That's not a great sign.
So where they were going back and forth is that the one guy said, I get it. I'm just saying, let's be realistic. Our job is not fantasy football to trot out the best receivers. You got Josh Allen. First thing you got to do is protect him. You can't have everything. You can't have Pro Bowl wide receivers, Pro Bowl offensive line, all pro quarterback, 3 Pro Bowl running backs. You've got to pick. Sure, I'd love to play fantasy football with you guys. But, Jeremy, there's just one ball. They had to have loved that.
Oh, yeah. You get locked in, and you're like, oh, all right. People are leaning into their radios or their smartphone apps, and they're turning it up right now. That's what that is. In that moment, when you hear him come with it. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that if you find yourself in that position, and I've heard team presidents say this, coaches say this, and I've had coaches call in, I've had parents call in, I've had back in the day, a lot of interesting back and forth. Me and Jimbo had several of those as well. There was some testy moments. That's part and parcel to the whole thing. Get it? And I can certainly handle being criticized. I just want to be able to have the discussion now. Are we opening up the door to having the discussion?
Yeah, there was some Mel Kiper and the Jimbo stuff. You're like, whoa.
Oh, well, then I would just laugh. I'd be like, here we go.
Are we good?
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. You have to be willing. Okay, are we going to do this? Because I have a retort.
Right.
Now, you don't want that because then now we're going to go back and forth. And the longer this goes on, the worse you look. So they want to be free to say what they want to say. But if you come back and either defend yourself or justify whatever it is that they're complaining about, and you can say, here's why I said what I said, they have no desire to do that.
No. And also that you go back and forth a third or a fourth time, you're wasting time because they are going to be on to the next thing, in terms of the interview. So you're just running out the clock, and now he's going to give you 3 questions instead of 5,
Yeah, it's always interesting. I think that the best way to go about that situation would have been like, if you're him and you're mad as you're sitting there getting ready to go on and you're mad, I'm probably not going on. At that point, I'm like, I'm not going to do myself any favors.
Right. Like, what did you think was going to happen? That you were going to own them? That's not how it works. You're on the phone like a listener would be. You might be a guest, but you're on the phone. It hardly ever works. Now, I like that he had a strong take. Have a take, don't suck. He followed Jim Rome's rules. Have a take, don't suck. He did both of those things. But, man, you're giving me evidence that you're taking notes. And you kept those notes for 7 years about Josh Allen. That hurt you. What they said about Josh Allen hurt you.
It really bothered him, right?
Because that's the fight with the spouse or the significant other. We're like, well, back 5 years ago.
You're like, oh, here we go.
So you held on to that, did you? Okay.
The problem is, too, for any GM or any coach, the draft is an inexact science, and you're going to get a lot of things wrong. And that is for the fans to argue about. That's the role. That's how it's played. That's the interaction. That's the relationship. You're paid a lot of money, in some cases millions of dollars, to not get those picks wrong. But we all know you're going to. We all know you're going to. At some point, you're going to miss. You're going to miss. You're going to whiff. Everybody has. There's no GM that's got a 100% hit rate. None. And most of them don't even have a 65% hit rate. So you just got to know when that happens, they're going to be like, well, You know, what happened to that tight end we drafted in 22? Really? You're going to have me on here to bitch about the tight end? He got hurt. What do you want me to do?
What happened?
Oh, man. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
A police pursuit that began at a routine road check led to a temporary road closure and the arrest of a wanted felon near the Grady-Thomas County line Friday morning. Old Thomasville Road was temporarily closed during the incident. It all began around 10:30 a.m. when a Thomas County deputy was conducting a road check. A man later identified as Ryan Noel approached the checkpoint but abruptly turned around, prompting the deputy to initiate a pursuit into neighboring Grady County. The chase came to an end when the deputy performed a pit maneuver, stopping Noel's vehicle. He was taken into custody without further incident. Investigators said Noel told police he fled the checkpoint because he had been wanted for approximately 4 years out of Highland County, Florida. Upon his arrest, deputies discovered Noel was in possession of a firearm, cocaine, and marijuana. As a convicted felon, Noel now faces multiple charges. This is Rachel Lene with your Roll Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
Now, here's your Paul's Termite and Pest Control Tallahassee weather report.
Another warm week ahead with the possibility of afternoon showers and storms for some of the week. It's getting to be that time of year. Highs in the upper 80s to low 90s with lows in the 60s. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 66. Tuesday, partly sunny, 30% chance of showers and storms, high of 87, low of 65. Wednesday, mostly sunny, 20% chance of showers and storms, high of 88. From Real Talk 93.3, this is Danielle Kelly.
For the elimination of termites, pests, and for a greener lawn too, call Paul's. They'll get them all.
Did you know that the survivability of a metal roof far exceeds that of a traditional shingle roof? At Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee, we have new state-of-the-art roll formers that produce the highest quality Versa panel, PBR panel, and standing seam options. And we will guarantee to match or beat any local competitor's pricing. We're a family-owned business ready to offer you the best sales and installation service in the area. And don't forget about our veterans and first responders discounts. Call Metal Roofing Sales today, 850-536-9123, or visit us online at metalroofing.net.
Oi! Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
Oh, I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Hey, you're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at Metamucil.com.
Easy Cater is the smarter, simpler way to order food for your workplace. With easy online ordering, search filters for budget, dietary needs, and more. Save your favorite restaurants and favorite orders for easy reordering. Save time with group ordering. You send a link, your team orders what they want. Plus, Easy Cater makes expense reporting a snap with all your receipts in one place. Easy Cater. More than just a way to order catering for work, it's your business tool for food. Order now at easycater.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I might suggest to our friend, the GM of the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Bean, that he go over to see my friends at Cornbread Hemp.
Not a bad suggestion.
Go over to the Cornbread Hemp folk. Make it happen. You'll feel better. I promise you. You get a healthy happy hour in there, which is a good thing. Don't have to worry so much about your stressors or the things that spark that sort of reaction. You can choose from either the THC gummies or the CBD gummies. Both are great. Both are all natural. No synthetic ingredients. Farm Bill compliant, by the way. So if you're an adult, 21 or over, you are good to go. Cornbreadhemp.com. Promo code WARCHANT. That is promo code WARCHANT. You can save right now. Good times. Cornbreadhemp.com. CBD or THC or both. You got the CBD.
It's on the way. Yeah, I got all. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Saving all kinds of money, getting you the all natural. You're good to go. Let's do some probables. Cue it up, good sir.
It's time for how you say, with the pitching probables?
Mets Nationals are warming up as we speak. Tom got some baseball game to watch today before the hockey tonight and before the smash at 7. It's a 4-game set, huh? Former Pirate Trevor Williams.
Yeah, wraparound series, and we play the D-backs starting tomorrow.
Griffin Canning goes for the Mets tonight. That'll be Trevor Williams for the Nats. Twins Guardians, Bailey Ober, Gavin Williams, Yanks Orioles. Baltimore's 10-17. Will Warren going for the Yankees. That is Sugano going for the Orioles. Tomoyuki. Cardinals Reds. Andre Palante. Nick Martinez. A's Rangers, JP Sears, Patrick Corbin. We got the Tigers and the Stros, Jack Flaherty. Only Flaherty. Daniel Blanco goes for the Astros. Tigers playing good baseball. Braves, Rockies. Oh, you poor bastards out there in Colorado rooting for the Rockies. 4-23.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'm not going to hit that over. That money's gone.
Golly. Bryce Elder goes for the Braves. Ryan Feltner going for those wayward Rockies. Marlins, Dodgers. Oh, the stark difference in payroll between those two teams, just as it was between the Dodgers and the Pirates. Skeens on Friday night, dominating that ass. 9 Ks, 7 innings, shut out the Dodgers. At least we won that time, 3-0. We weren't going to win the next two, and we didn't. Edward Cabrera goes tonight for the Marlins. That'll be Dustin May going for the Dodgers, and that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump.
That studio group is having a good time with that one.
They are. They're having a blast. Hey, Tom, the further we got removed from the draft, the more I felt very, very good about what the Bucks did in the draft. Also, one thing to point out about that, and that is that we had some amazing reactions to players getting drafted. Our kids are excited to be in Tampa, buddy. And the draft does do that. Some cool emotional punch to the draft when kids realize a lifelong dream. Good work out of you. Thanks, everybody. Back with you tomorrow on a Lawn Maintenance Tuesday. Seminole headlines plus the bonus hour. Until tomorrow, peace.